Welcome to football in the Great Lakes State.
No. Great Lakes State football, baby.
Or GLSF all ball.
or if anyone knows our email, GLSF ball.
We apparently don't know how to make proper names, especially when you're trying to relate things to the Great Lakes State and football.
Yeah. Yes, as Kory and I have been debating while we've been trying to come up with ideas for names, Great Lakes State and football tends to be taken quite a bit more than we thought. So we had to use GLSF ball a couple times for some usernames and a Gmail account. But anyway, welcome to Great Lakes State football. I'm Vince, and above me on my Zoom,
I'm Kory. Poppy, as most know me.
Great Papayas.
Yeah, I'm going to bring football from the state of Michigan to you beautiful people who are interested. So that's where we'll go.
We're going to be talking everything Michigan, state of Michigan football. And for those of you who are listening and watching by chance that are not our beautiful and wonderful friends and family who we spam followed on Instagram and Twitter to try and get some traction, if by some chance you shared it with some other people who don't know who we are, I'm Vince, and Kory above me. Both of us are Grand Ledge High School grads on the west side of Lansing, capital of Michigan. Both of us played ball at Grand Ledge. Go Comets. Kory's a 2010 grad. I'm a 2011 grad, and we both are GLIAC football players, both washed up athletes. I played at Hillsdale College from 2011 2015. Go Chargers. And then I returned and started coaching at Grand Ledge in 2016. I just finished my 6th year coaching high school football, 3rd year as the defensive coordinator for the varsity Grand Ledge Comets. And unfortunately, our season has come to an end a few weeks ago. But yeah, so Kory, if you want to add your playing career there.
Yeah, so I also went to the wonderful Grand Ledge High School, which is not all that wonderful, but it's all right. Then I went on to play football at Northwood University. That's also part of the GLIAC. I was an offensive lineman there from 2010 to 2014. And then I also returned back to my hometown, just like everybody should, of course. And coach Hall. I was a defensive line coach for 3 years. I was a offensive line coach on the freshman team for a year. And then I was actually an OC on the JV team for a year. So 5 years of coaching, 20 years of football. Love the game, love the state of Michigan, and yeah, just ready to share some knowledge and try to do the best we can to give you the whole state in perspective with football.
So that's kind of our playing and coaching career. So we're very heavily involved, hands-on with the game. What about fandom, Kory? Who is your team of choice?
I am live or die Michigan, go blue, and I'm also live or die Lions, which has probably cut like 3.5 years off my life at this point. My wife casually laughs at me on Sundays while I drink too much beer and cry when the Lions lose or scream or throw my cats or whatever it might be. So, yeah, the go Lions, blue and go Lions.
Yeah, I'm a Michigan State fan, so go green, baby, go green. Most of my family graduated from Michigan State, but I didn't play college football. Would have gone to MSU most likely. And I am also a Lions fan, not nearly as diehard as Kory. He is referred to me as a fair weather fan sometimes, but hey, I watched the entire game when they frickin' tied. Was that 2 Sundays ago or last Sunday?
I was there in the rain.
Was that 2 Sundays ago?
2 Sundays ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because they had a bye. Didn't they have a bye last week?
No, we lost again to
That's how forgettable this season's been. I don't even remember when their bye week was. Yeah, I suffered through that tie. I watched the whole thing start to finish. Hey, I'm such a big Michigan State fan. I watched start to finish. We'll get to Michigan State a little bit later, but the Ohio State game, I did watch the entire thing. I didn't turn it off. So
R.I.P.
I'm go green no matter what. Lions, I won't suffer through them as much as I would suffer through Michigan State, but anyway, so that's the two of us, and we've been talking for quite a few years now. As long as we've been, we'll get to Michigan State and Michigan a little bit later. They actually have quite a bit to play for still, but Kory and I have been talking for quite some time about trying to start a football podcast or at least do something online discussing the game of football with how, much experience we've had playing and coaching, and how much we enjoy the game, and how much time him and I, we spend bantering and arguing and yelling at each other, and or at least sometimes agreeing and have interesting conversations about football. But we thought this would be a fun thing to do. So you know what? We decided to stop talking about it and screw it. Go ahead and get it started. So kind of the intentions and goals of this thing is to mostly talk about football. I mean, anything related to the state of Michigan. Obviously, we could not call this podcast Michigan football. As him and I debated for a while, if we said Michigan football, everyone would immediately think the Wolverines. So we were trying to come up with an interesting name that was inclusive of football in the entire state of Michigan. And we thought Mitten State sounded pretty stupid. So then we landed
very
on
soft. We could not say Mitten. We could not say Mitten. That's very soft.
Does sound like a very soft podcast. So then we came up with Great Lakes State Football, and I think that's a fun name. And obviously Great Lakes State is a nickname for the state of Michigan. So in the end, we will be uplifting and talking about and discussing any college team, conference, league, as well as high school football in the state of Michigan, D3, D2, D1, the MAC, Big Ten, and then even the Lions. So we're going to have some good conversations in the weeks to come, hoping to do an episode per week. Obviously, football is kind of winding down here. We have some really cool ideas in the off season, for some things that we're going to do, but there's still football left to be discussed. And we're very excited. We're going to have our first guest on a little bit later in the episode here. Brett Johnson. For those of you that are friends and family, probably know Brett. If you're from Grand Ledge, Brett Johansson, Brett Jansen. Brett will be on. Grand Ledge grad. Was a Grand Valley football player for a year, and great guy, knows football, loves football. So he's going to be on as a guest picker as we discuss the MHSAA playoffs, the state championship games. We're going to go through and talk about each game and have picks. Well, we're going to come up with an idea for a contest here for whoever wins, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we are going to go ahead and start here with the D3 playoffs. And this year, the MIAA, the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, which is the oldest college conference in the country. Fun fact for all of you out there, Michigan State actually played at one time. And so did my Hillsdale Chargers. Go Chargers.
I didn't know they were D3.
D3 did not exist till the 1970s. There was big colleges and small colleges. Come on, bro. There was no Division 1, 2, or 3 until the 1970s. Anyway, D3, MIAA, Albion College, the Britons won the MIAA this year. They last won the conference and made the NCAA Division 3 playoffs in 2015. They this year played University of Wisconsin lacrosse out of the D3 conference in Wisconsin that has Wisconsin Whitewater, a pretty dominant conference. The Division 3 playoffs have 32 teams in their field, and every conference gets an automatic bid. And I believe last I checked, Kory, you could correct me, but there's 20-something conferences. There's generally like close to 10 at-large bids, I believe. It's like 5 to 8 at-large bids, not quite 10. The only reason I bring this up is because the Wisconsin conference is usually the only one of only a couple that get the at-large bid. Usually the conference that Mount Union's in gets an at-large bid for their second place team. So does the Wisconsin one.
Right. So
yeah, because those are pretty much the two best top to bottom conferences in Division 3. Albion hosted. Albion went 9-1. Good for them, man. Heck of a season. Their only loss was to Adrian, I believe. And Adrian, I believe, ended up having 2 losses. So the other team, I have to go double check, that had 1 loss. I can't remember who it was, but Albion beat them and they had the head-to-head win. So they did take the spot in the playoffs. But they hosted for the first time since 1994. So those of you who don't know, Albion won the Division 3 national championship in 1994. It went 13-0. That was before automatic bids. Automatic bids for the Division 3 playoffs did not start until 1999. So that makes it even more impressive that there was only 16 teams that got an at-large bid and won the whole thing. That was the last time they hosted a game. Another fun fact for you. No MIAA team has won a playoff game
Since then,
since that 1994 team. Fun fact. Other, you gotta wait for the but. Yep. Other than Trine. So our buddy Zach Hess, if he's watching and listening here, your Thunder, your Trine Thunder, University of Trine Thunder or whatever, is the only MIAA team since 1994. is the only team since 1994 in the MIAA that's won a playoff game. Trine has actually won 3 playoff games since 1994. They won one in 2009, one in 2010, before Zach got there. Sorry, Zach. And in 2017 after he left. Trine is also the only MIAA team since 1994 to have a 10 or more win season. So pretty crazy. Albion, unfortunately, could not become the only other team than Trine to have 10 wins or a playoff win. So, yeah, Albion unfortunately got beat 58-23 at home. I watched about half that game. I was on YouTube, streamed live. University of Wisconsin lacrosse now has to play the defending national champs, North Central. North Central won the Division III national title in 2019. They didn't play last year in 2020 due to COVID. So anything you want to add on that, Kory? Otherwise, we'll move on here.
No, I would just say that the MIAA actually had a pretty strong year. I think there was 5 teams over 500 in that conference. Of the 9, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 5. But anyway, super strong year for the conference. You go out and play a Wisconsin team that in the state of Wisconsin, you don't have D2 football. So you're pretty much rigged. Like anybody who's great goes to Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. Anybody who's average goes to any of the Wisconsin teams. And of course, there's sleepers in there. So the Wisconsin teams normally wreak havoc in the playoffs or win it all. I think the market of football is so saturated in the state of Michigan with the MIAA and Division II super strong, and Division I is super strong in the state of Michigan. Really, our D3 programs are very diluted. I mean, as a high school football coach, and you've seen this, you get some guys going D3 that probably don't necessarily need to be playing college football, but in the end of the day, like, you need bodies to play football. So. Yeah,
it's interesting. I'm glad you brought this up before we moved on from this topic, because it is true. The state of Michigan not only has a Division II league and 3 teams that play in the MAC, mid-major teams, but they also have 2 Big Ten teams. So the 2, 4, 6 teams, because the MIAA has 7 teams, but one of them is in Indiana and Trine. But the other 6 Michigan D3 schools kind of get the leftovers. Like you just said, that Wisconsin conference is so damn strong because there is no Division II football in the state of Wisconsin. And actually the only football you can play in the state of Wisconsin is the Wisconsin Badgers in Madison. You got to go to Madison, Wisconsin Badgers, if you want to play football. There's no mid-majors, right? There's no D1 mid-majors. I correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's any FCS football, Division I AA.
Not in Wisconsin. No, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota.
So they might, some of those, some kids from Wisconsin might go to those schools. But if you want to stay home in the state of Wisconsin and play football, you either go to Madison, play Big Ten. Not a lot of kids are good enough to do that. I mean, it's a very small percentage. Or you go Division III. So you're going to get a lot of the best kids in the state of Wisconsin that are not playing for Madison, the University of Wisconsin Badgers, going D3 if they're not willing to leave the state. Whereas again, like you mentioned in the state of Michigan, it's so diluted by the time the MIAA gets, it's so hard for those D3 schools to recruit out of state. They just don't have the money, so by the time they get to the recruits in their own state, they're getting the leftovers. So it's very, very hard for the MIAA to compete on a national level. It just is. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up the fact that only one team had a losing record. Kalamazoo went 1-9.
Yeah, Blake. It was 6 of the 7.
Sorry, Blake. Simon, one of our buddies, played there, and Jordan Laredo. Sorry, guys. Kalamazoo 1-9.
R.I.P.
And the rest of the conference, though, Alma and Adrian were 5-5. Olivet 7-3. Trine 6-4. Hope was who tied with Albion, but Albion got the tiebreaker because they beat Hope head to head, so they were the outright champs and got the playoff bid. So 9-2 and 8-2. So, all right. With that, let's move on here to our next topic. We are going to talk about Division II football in the state of Michigan. We'll talk about the playoffs second here. We're going to actually talk about my Hillsdale Chargers really quick. Hillsdale did not have a great year. They had a pretty average year. As Kory likes to joke, tell the people your nickname for Hillsdale College football.
A bunch of average white guys just playing football.
Kory usually just says average white guy football is what he says is where I play.
Super average white guy football, playing in a super average white guy bowl game. But I mean, it's fun for the guys. You know, I mean, the guys who are fifth years, the guys whose careers are done, you got another opportunity to go play, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually, Kory and I coached one of the current members, two of the current members who are both seniors. So this will be their last game. Shout out to Cole Johnson, whose older brother will be on the podcast a little bit later here to do playoff picks for us, and Jacob Umholtz, running back and offensive lineman. Cole just got his third straight all-conference honors in the GMAC, the Great Midwest Athletic Conference. Hillsdale is currently the only Michigan school that is in the GMAC, but Kory's beloved Timberwolves of Northwood are joining the GMAC starting next school year. So there will be two Michigan schools in that league. So this new bowl game, it's only one of four. There's 4 Division II bowl games that are mostly conference crossover games. They're not like Division I bowl games where these big national things. It is a crossover bowl between the Great Lakes Valley Conference, which has schools from Indiana mostly, and Kentucky, a lot of other Midwest schools, whereas the GMAC is mostly Ohio schools and then Hillsdale. So they created this game called America's Crossroads Bowl. And it began in 2019. Ohio Dominican and Truman State were in the first one. Ohio Dominican won 20-7 or 21-7. It was canceled last year due to COVID, and so now it's happening this year. The bowl is basically the 2 second place teams from the conference get invited, because pretty much there's no automatic bids for Division II playoffs. But if you win your league, it's pretty rare unless you're Hillsdale College 2011. Hillsdale College 2011 won the GLIAC outright. I was a freshman on the team, got a ring up there. 2011 GLIAC conference champs, and we didn't make the playoffs. The 2 second, third place teams, one of them who we beat, made the playoffs. Anyway, that's another story. So Division II has regional rankings, but if you win your league, you pretty much go to the playoffs. And so weirdly enough, Kory and I were just looking at this. Indianapolis actually was second place in the GLVC. Lindenwood won the league. And we'll talk about them in a second because they were in the playoffs and played Grand Valley. But Indianapolis finished 7-4, second place in the conference, and they must have turned it down because at 5-2 in the league, Truman State was 4-3 in the league, and Truman State is who has been invited to the game. Truman State finished 8-3 actually. They were 4-0 in conference play and went 4-3 in league play, so they had a strong start, didn't finish quite as strong. And Hillsdale started the year 0-3 and actually got beat by Truman State, got beat by Indianapolis. They lost 3 tough non-conference games, got beat up at Michigan Tech. So Hillsdale started 0-3. Hillsdale then won 3 straight games and beat the 2 best teams in the GMAC. Findlay, who won the league. Hillsdale beat Findlay at Findlay. Hillsdale beat Tiffin at Tiffin, who finished second place. And Hillsdale ended the year being Ohio Dominican, who just finished a spot behind him, but with a better record. But Hillsdale still only managed to finish 6-5. So interesting year for them that they finished second place, but beat 3 really good teams. But again, had 3 tough non-conference losses. So Hillsdale College 6-5, playing Truman State 8-3 in the 1 of 4 Division II bowl games. So good luck to the Hillsdale College Chargers. Hopefully they get a 7th win on the season. Good luck, Cole. Good luck, Jake. Our fellow Grand Ledge Comets.
My Timberwolves did not beat anybody. Actually, just kidding. They beat Northern Michigan once. They played them twice, which was strange.
Oh, maybe they had a non-conference game that got canceled or something.
They must have something, but they didn't win a whole lot. So,
oh man, that's too bad.
We'll regroup and lose again next year. We'll be there.
All right. Well, with that, let's move on to the Division II playoffs. And we did have 2 teams from the state of Michigan make the Division II playoffs. So the GLIAC, which has been kind of demolished, really, in terms of the number of teams in the league now, after we just talked about the GMAC, which took all of the Ohio schools. It was all the Ohio schools but Ashland officially joined the GMAC this past year. So now there are no longer any Ohio schools that play football left in the GLIAC. And Northwood and Hillsdale has been in it for 5 years now, but Northwood will be leaving the GLIAC next year. So the GLIAC football teams next year will be down to Northern, Michigan Tech, Ferris State, Grand Valley, Saginaw Valley, and Wayne State. Am I missing any? I think it's just those 6.
Wow, just 6?
That's it. Because I think there was 8, and then
time,
Ashland left. And when Northwood leaving, that I'm pretty sure that leaves only 6. At one time, there were like 14 football schools.
I was going to say when we had Walsh, Malone, Tiffin.
Indianapolis was in the league too.
Indianapolis. Wow.
Yep. Ohio Dominican.
I don't know what they're trying to do.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with the GLIAC, man, with only 6 foot. Oh, Davenport. Excuse me. There's 7. I forgot about Davenport. There's 7 football schools.
They're like a stepchild, though. Nobody likes
Yeah, they were NAI. They're a brand new program. Program.
They did bring over Wisconsin Parkside, Indiana, Purdue,
Northwest Missouri,
or Northwest.
Not Northwest Missouri State. Northwest.
I think it's Northwest Purdue, Indiana. I don't know.
Yeah, they don't play
Panthers,
football.
Baby. They're the Panthers.
But those schools don't play football. Well, and then Lake Superior State is in the GLIAC, but they also don't play football.
Very true, and they are way up there.
So anyway, the GLIAC is still an incredibly strong conference for football. They got 2 bids. Ferris State went 10-0. They finished the number 1 team in the country. Tony Anise, man, has just turned Ferris State into a powerhouse over the last 10 years. And Grand Valley got an at-large bid. Grand Valley finished 9-1. Both of them only played 10 games. Grand Valley had their first game of the year canceled, I think, due to COVID against Edinburgh. I hadn't looked up Ferris State's schedule. I forgot if they just had a bye week or if they also had a game.
They had
canceled.
a bye.
They just straight up didn't schedule a non-conference game. Or correct. One of their non-conference was open. So smart for them, man. They probably figured they were going to be good, give them a week off at some point. So Ferris finished 10-0, number 1 in the country. They beat Grand Valley at Grand Valley 35-28. Grand Valley was actually down by 14. Ferris State scored with 2 minutes left to make it a 1-score game. Nonetheless, Tony Anise has kind of dominated Matt Mitchell and Grand Valley over the last 10 years. I think Grand Valley has only won maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years.
And they've almost played twice a year for the last 5 years almost.
Because what has happened this year has happened many times over the last 10 years where Ferris wins the league or Grand Valley wins the league, and then the other one gets an at-large playoff bid because they don't lose any of their other games. They go 9-1 or 9-2 or 10-1 with their only loss being to the other team. So Ferris State got a bye, the number 1 team in all 4 regions. 28 teams make the playoffs in D2. So the number 1 team in each region gets a bye. And Grand Valley beat Lindenwood at home, who was the league winner in the GLVC, who we were just talking about a moment ago. They beat Lindenwood 20-3. Grand Valley's defense is phenomenal. I think 35 points might have been one of Ferris State's lowest scoring totals of the year. So Grand Valley lost 35-28, but Ferris State, man, has put up, I think, 70 this year. Grand Valley put up 70 on Northwood. So Grand Valley has quite an offense too. Grand Valley has put up more than 40 points. They put up more than 60 twice this year.
Ferris scored 35 against Grand Valley and 35 against Wayne State.
Otherwise, they scored more than that in all their other games.
Correct.
Wow. Grand Valley put up 62 on Wayne State. So 2 very good teams.
They put up 100 on Northwood, so we just want to talk about that.
70-9. Yikes. Yeah. So Grand Valley plays at Ferris State this coming Saturday, November 27th, up in Big Rapids, Michigan, baby. Big game. What do you think, Kory? Who are you picking for this one?
So I think it's a repeat. I think Ferris State wins. I think Ferris scores a lot of points. They give up a lot of points. I think their average is like they score 45 and give up 20, which is a lot of points for them compared to Grand Valley. Run heavy team, very good defense, but it's just so hard to play against Ferris State because they have so much talent. Tony Anise does a hell of a job bringing in pretty much everybody he can get his hands on who's athletic.
Which is weird because before Tony Anise got to Ferris State, that was what Grand Valley was. I mean, Grand Valley still gets unbelievable talent. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they're still a perennial powerhouse. They make the playoffs in D2 almost every year. You know, they've only missed it a few times since Matt Mitchell's been there. And it's because they continue to get kids who probably could play mid-major Division I football.
Yep.
And they still
100%.
even get some of the Big Ten transfers who get to Big Ten football, find out they're not good enough to transfer to Grand Valley, right? Because Grand Valley has, I don't know, probably a dozen guys playing in the NFL, at least 8 to 10 NFL guys right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure Grand Valley's probably got 8 to 10 guys in the NFL right now. But Ferris State has turned
Ferris is right
that.
there.
Ferris has turned into that under
They're
Tony
right there.
Anise. I mean, that guy knows how to recruit kids. I were you there with us when we went and watched him speak at the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association Coaches Clinic in the Lansing Center a few years ago? So Tony Anise got to give a hell of a speech, man. He's a incredible coach. Listening to him talk. If Jaleel Canty, local coaching and playing buddy of ours in Lansing, Michigan here. He's the varsity head football coach at Lansing Everett, played for Tony Anise, and he'll tell you what a great coach he was. So I know from talking to people, our buddy Corey Arnotts, who we went to Grand Ledge with, also played for Tony Anise over at Ferris. So, I mean, those guys have said what a great coach he is. So, yeah. I
was 5 minutes away from being a Bulldog.
Were you a bulldog? A bulldog?
A bulldog.
Go Dogs!
I'd have more rings than I had wins, I think, at Northwood. No, I love my alma mater. I'm done shitting on Northwood for the episode, but
just didn't have a lot of football. Did you not have a winning season? I don't think you had a winning season there.
No,
one year you guys started 5-0, or did you guys finish 6-5?
I broke my thumb.
Didn't you finish 6-5 though that year? You finished 5-0, I thought, or started 5-0 and finished 6. So did you start 4-0 and then finish 5-6?
Yeah.
So I didn't think you lost 6 straight games.
My senior year, I think we won 5 games.
You were close. You're close. Makes you feel better. I only had 2 winning seasons at Hillsdale, but it managed to give me 2 rings. So
I played a lot of games and lost a lot of them. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. Hey, we've been on good teams, we've been on bad teams, man. We know what it's like to be successful. We know what it's like to fight through adversity and know who's got your back and who doesn't. So there's nothing better than that. All right.
Beer still drinks the same.
Well, yeah. Win or lose, we booze. That's the old
you didn't make a pick, so I'm calling you out. I said Ferris State.
All right. So for the Ferris State Grand Valley State game, I will say very difficult to beat a team twice. I think everybody knows that in any level of football, high school, college, NFL. It is so hard to beat a team 2 times because if you beat them once, it's really hard to make corrections. If you won the game, you won the game. But I really think Tony Anise and Ferris State has Matt Mitchell and Grand Valley's number. They have to play up at Big Rapids. They got to go travel north, hour and a half, hour, whatever it is to get from Grand Valley up to Ferris State. And I think on home field, Tony Anise will get those guys ready. They've had a week off. I think Ferris State wins. I think Ferris State's going to make a deep run in the playoffs. I think this is going to be up there with that national title, the national title runner-up team that lost by 1 point or whatever it was, 2 points. They went for 2 to tie it up and lost on 2 points a couple years ago. So, yeah, let's move on here. We're going to talk about some MACtion. We got the beautiful mid-major conference here in the state of Michigan, mid-athletic conference, right? MAC, right, is usually referred to in the state of Michigan. I don't know if anyone out there listening is not from the Midwest, but on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, right?
Oh yeah, good old the MACtion.
If you go to their website, it's getsomeMACtion.com. GetsomeMACtion.com. I'm not kidding. It is getsomeMACtion.com. But anyway, we've got, how many teams do we got here? 3 from the state of Michigan, right? Central, Eastern, and Western. So again, with our podcast here, we hope to talk about everything state of Michigan football. Crazy thing about the MAC this year, if you haven't been paying attention to MAC football, split into an East and a West division. All right. The West division has Central, Eastern, and Western. The 3 Michigan schools are schools. I can't talk. The 3 Michigan schools in the MAC are all in the West division. The West division, there are 6 teams, right? Yeah, there's 6 teams in each division. All teams but one currently, there's still 1 game left in the season, currently are bowl eligible. The only team in the West division that's not bowl eligible in the MAC is Ball State, and they're 5-6. So if they manage to win their final game of the season, who are they playing? They are playing Buffalo at home. And Buffalo is not having a very good year. They're 4-7. So if Ball State can beat Buffalo, then every team in the West Division is eligible to go to a bowl game in the MAC. 6 teams. And then there's 2 more teams in the East that are currently 6 and 5. So there are 8 total teams in the MAC this year that have won 6 or more games. And there's still a week left. There's still another game to be played. So crazy. Of the 12 teams, 8 of them are bowl eligible. Good for the MAC, man. I listen to a lot of those guys, those coaches talk at the coaches clinic as well. That happens in Lansing every year. I mean, those guys are go-getters, man. They understand that their fight here in the Midwest, you got the Big Ten. So being a mid-major conference, Division I conference in the Midwest, you're similar situation to the MIAA D3 conference getting all the leftovers. Well, all the leftover D1 guys, because you got to think, I mean, the very best guys in the state of Michigan not only go to Michigan State or Michigan, they go to Ohio State, they go to Penn State, they go to Indiana, they go to Wisconsin. I mean, we have here in just the city of Lansing, we have DeWitt, whose star wide receiver is one of the best players in the state, is going to Wisconsin. I mean, all those MAC schools are fighting the Big Ten for the best Division I talent in the Midwest. Central Michigan 7-4 this year. Eastern Michigan 7-4. Eastern Michigan, we got to pause.
Didn't have a program 5 years ago. Their program was proclaimed. It was done. Cancel culture to Eastern Michigan, and now they're a program.
They never ended up following through with that, though, right? They talked about folding the program because there wasn't enough money and there wasn't enough popularity surrounding the program, but they never ended up doing it.
I think it was 2015 was like the last year, and I think since 2015 they've went to a bowl game almost every single year.
They went to a bowl game in 2016, 2018, 2019, and then 2020. They only played 6 games. They went 2-4. So this will be their 4th bowl game in 6 years. So crazy fact about Eastern Michigan. We just talked about how they've gone to 4 bowl games in 6 years. Since 1940, okay, 1940, 82 years, 1940 to 2021, 81 years. They have been to 7 total bowl games. Excuse me, 6. I'm sorry, I miscounted. 6. 4 of them coming since 2016. Isn't that wild?
So you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying they are awful. I'll give you an even better stat. From 1990 to 2016, 27 seasons, they had 2 winning seasons. 2.
That's why they should have been canceled.
Almost 30 years, they had only 2 winning seasons. Eastern Michigan has been an abysmal football program. So you have got to commend this staff for getting them 7 wins. Do you understand? I also don't know if you looked this up. Do you understand if they win their last game? That doesn't count the bowl game. I'm talking about just their final regular season game. And they get to 8-4. Are you ready for this? That will be their most wins in a season since 1987. They went 10-2 in 1987. That's their best season in school history. That's their only double win season in school history was 1987.
They're also in a very, 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 very talent-rich part of not only the state of Michigan, they're in the corridor of like Ohio.
Like, I know, Ypsilanti. I know.
Literally walk across the border and recruit 25 people.
I just think Eastern Michigan's athletic department as a whole, it's not really a very popular or alumni heavy university in a state of Michigan that already has so many universities. I mean, not even private colleges, so many universities in the state, so many schools that you can go to in the state of Michigan. So Eastern Michigan over by Ypsilanti, which is already not far from the University of Michigan. Right.
Correct.
So I just think it's just never been a program that's put any money towards athletics and in football in general. And you gotta give a round of applause, man.
I'm gonna call awesome. My mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is an Eastern Michigan grad, volleyball star. I'm gonna call her. She needs to become a booster. We're going to boost Eastern Michigan to the championship.
I'm happy for him, man.
We're just going to give them $100.
If Eastern wins this last game, which who are they playing here? Their final regular season game is at Central. So in Central is also 7-4. So win or lose, though, a 7-win season for Eastern. Pretty awesome. They still will go to a bowl game as well. Very cool for them. Central Michigan, win or lose, also going to a bowl game. Western Michigan, win or lose, will also go to a bowl game. Western Michigan has to play Northern Illinois at Northern Illinois, who is the division leader. And at 8-3, Northern Illinois has the best record in the MAC right now. So I would imagine Northern Illinois will probably take care of business at home on senior day. But yeah. So Northern Illinois has clinched the West already, whether they win or lose to Western, because second place team Central they already beat. Kent State and Miami are tied for first in the East. They are playing each other for the division. The winner of that game on Saturday will play Northern. I think, does the MAC championship get played the very next weekend? I think it does.
Yeah, Ford Field.
They do. I know they play at Ford Field, but I couldn't remember if they play the very next weekend or not. So.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to add about MACtion? Otherwise, we'll move on here.
Just the fact that Rocky Lombardi has found a resurgence in his playing career at NIU, I think that's pretty funny because he beat Michigan a handful of times, and then actually he might not have beat maybe once.
He was the starter just the one time, 2020.
Oh, so yeah, he didn't beat Michigan. Just kidding.
Yeah, because Michigan.
Yeah, he's deservingly at NIU. Then screw that guy. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he is having a heck of a season over at Northern Illinois, man. I mean, he is from Iowa. Excuse me, I was going to say Illinois. He's from Iowa originally, so a little closer to home, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. It's heading a little bit more west. I don't know if it's closer or not. I have to look. I think it should be. But yeah, he's having quite a season for Northern Illinois after playing at Michigan State. So good for him, man. Good for him. He has thrown for almost 2,000 yards. So. On the season. So good for him. All right. So let's move on here. And I think, Kory, correct me if I am not wrong, we're going to finish up here with the Lions. And then this podcast is going to be seamlessly edited together. We are doing this portion of the podcast earlier in the day, and we will be having our guest picker, Brett Johnson, onto the podcast with us to discuss the MHSAA playoffs. And we're going to each pick the state championship winner, kind of discuss the semifinals together. And then after that, we will have a segment talking about Michigan State football as well. Kind of after coming out of this last weekend, Michigan's victory, Michigan State's loss, what that kind of means going forward, as well as the college football playoffs. But before we have that segment tacked on here, let's talk for maybe a couple minutes about the lie downs. The beautiful, beautiful, awful, horrible.
So I am a Dan Campbell believer. I'm bought in. I'm biting kneecaps. I'm doing all that fun stuff.
Biting kneecaps.
For the first time in maybe not my lifetime, probably since 2000, we'll say 10, 11, 12 in that region, we actually have a competent offensive line and we have a run game and we just don't have anything else though. I mean, our quarterback play looks like the guy from the guy that can throw it over the mountains, Uncle Rico. And then you've got, I don't know, the Lions are bad. I know it's a rebuild or supposed rebuild, but the product that we were putting on the field currently is atrocious. Our defensive play, our secondary linebackers are doing okay. Our defensive line is pretty miserable to watch. They get about as much pressure as an 8th grade defensive line. It's just, I don't know. I'm ready for their season to be over because it creates a stress in my life that I just don't need because I'm already bald. So, yeah, that's my take. I mean, it's just miserable to watch. It's just bad football.
I think one difference, because I call myself a fan of the Lions. I mean, there's no other NFL team that I actively root for. I really hope Matt Stafford does well, but I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a Rams fan. I really have a lot of respect and admiration for Matt Stafford, so I really hope he does well. I'm kind of rooting for him as a player, but I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a Rams fan. The Lions are my team. You know, if I'm going to root for an NFL team, I'm going to root for my home state of Michigan. Something that I always talk about with my father-in-law, who is almost 60 years old and has watched the Detroit Lions his entire life, is the ownership. One thing that's been a constant through the misery that is the Detroit Lions franchise has been the Fords. You've had plenty of talent in there. You have a Hall of Fame running back, a Hall of Fame wide receiver, likely when it's said and done, a Hall of Fame quarterback in Matt Stafford. I'd be very surprised if he does not end up being a Hall of Fame quarterback because he's got a lot of, I would say, That guy's got probably close to 10 years left in his career because I don't think he's even 40. I mean, he's what, mid-30s, 36?
They call him Stat Padford, so he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Don't worry.
I think he's 34 or 35. I mean, I think if he's as healthy as Tom Brady is, I don't know if anyone's as healthy as Tom Brady. I mean, he could play maybe another 10 years. I think he plays at least 5 or 6 years in LA with the Rams. But I don't think you're going to get significant change until ownership change. It starts at the top. I think one of the craziest things was firing Jim Caldwell. The guy was winning games. I didn't understand where the Lions standards were at, that a 9-7 season is a fireable offense. You hadn't won a playoff game in decades. Why are you firing the guy? He went to the playoffs.
He took you to
twice.
2 of them.
Yeah, I went to the playoffs twice. I don't understand that. I get the one argument was he had a winning record against a bunch of losing teams. So what? Win games. Isn't winning what matters? I don't know. That's a whole different story. But anyway, so to me, the ownership has to change. I think another thing that stuck out to me about this team this year when I've watched the Lions is they have a lot of guys that wouldn't start on any other NFL team.
We do not have a wide receiver in our wide receiver core that would be on a roster.
They're all no names. I mean, I don't know any of these guys. I mean, I watch a lot of college football, and I just like, who are most of these guys? DeAndre Swift's a pretty solid running back. I think he has some bursts of brilliance. I think, like you said, if you get a better O-line in there, maybe he could be a running back to build around. Possibly,
he's the best O-line we've ever had.
Oh, you really like the O-line?
Yeah, it's the best offensive line we ever had, and we're missing an all-pro center.
I guess we did run the ball very, very well against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
250 yards, and we ran it for another 150 last week against, who the hell did we even play?
I know that's how forgettable they've been. Was it Philly? No. Who did they play? It was
hold on, cut that.
It was the Browns. They lost by 3 at the Cleveland Browns.
Exactly.
By 3 again.
Baker Bumfield and the Browns, who I think are contending.
Bumfield.
They're contending in their division, and we played along with them. And
their defense.
The Browns are 6-5.
Yeah,
they've got a great D line. Baker Mayfield might be a worse quarterback than the Lions quarterback.
The crazy thing is the Lions defense really hasn't been that bad. I mean, Week 3 they gave up 19. Week 4 they gave up 24. Week 5 they gave up 19. Week 7 28. When you get to about 4 scores, that's like kind of make or break. And then 16 to the Steelers and 13 to the Browns. And the Steelers and Browns, like you said, are both teams with winning records. Pretty solid teams. So I mean, their defense has kept them in about 4 or 5 games this year. Their offense. Now, there are some games their defense was abysmal. I mean, they gave up 44 to the Eagles. That was pretty ugly. I mean, 34 to the Bengals, 35 to the Packers, 41 to San Francisco. But the NFL is about scoring points. I mean, if you can't score points, I mean, the NFL is very rarely a defense wins games kind of scenario. I feel like the NFL has gone more and more to like major college football now. You're seeing with the Power 5 conferences, it's all about scoring. We'll get to talking about Ohio State later, but it's about points.
The NFL is all about possessions, and I think that's where Jim Harbaugh has struggled.
Correct, in time of possession. We'll talk about
and we won't get into Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, but
absolutely.
I think it's all about possessions in the NFL, and you have to probably score on to be an elite NFL team. You got to score on 50 to 75% of your possessions. If you're not scoring at that clip, then you're not winning. But no, I mean, Dan Campbell took over the offensive calling reins from Anthony Lynn, who I said 3 weeks ago, Anthony Lynn was probably the MVP. If you had to like cancel the season and give out awards already, I would say Anthony Lynn is the only saving grace to the Lions. And Dan Campbell took his reins away the last 2 weeks. And look at this. We can't even throw the ball 10 yards. We run draws on 3rd and 30 every single time. And I just can't watch them anymore because it makes me want to burn my house down.
I will never forget in your basement. Was it Caldwell's last year or was it Patricia's first or second when they had a really good, I think it was Patricia's first or second, where they had a supposedly really good team and they were in like tied for first in the North and were playing at the Packers, or was it at home? And they kept at home where they kept calling those hands to the face. And you and I are literally screaming at the TV, where the fuck is hands to the face? He's touching his shoulder.
They threw the Hail Mary that night, didn't they? Wasn't that the night they threw the Hail Mary?
Hail Mary.
Aaron Rodgers did, and we
I
lost.
thought that was 2015. I was at Hillsdale.
Oh, maybe.
Because I watched that at my house in Hillsdale. Because my buddy Dave Galganias, Dave, if you're listening, fuck you, tackled me onto the floor after the Packers won on that. He tackled me into a couch and was berating me. So that was fun time.
Lawsuit coming. Check the mail.
He also tackled me freshman year at Hillsdale when Michigan State won on that Hail Mary from Kirk Cousins to Keith Nickel. So fuck you again, Dave. We won that game, but he got the last laugh that year because then Wisconsin beat us in the Big Ten championship game. So anyway, all right, that's going to wrap up our conversation there on D1, 2, and 3 football in the state of Michigan, as well as the beautiful lie downs. We are now going to segue seamlessly. You won't even know the difference into our MHSAA playoff discussion, Michigan high school football. We got state championship games at Ford Field next weekend. Brett Johnson will be joining us as our guest picker. We're going to go through, pick each game, talk about them a little bit. And then after that, stay with us. And Kory and I will wrap up our episode 1 here with discussions on Michigan State football. Go green, baby.
Go blue.
Now we're going to transition to the next portion, the Great Lakes State Football Podcast, episode 1 here. We have our guest picker, our guest on for the evening, Mr. Brett Johnson, Brett Johansson, or as many people from Grand Valley and the Lansing area have come to know him as. If you don't know that one, I'm sorry, that's an inside joke there. But Brett, how you doing, man?
Vince, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited to be here. Nothing better than the end of football season.
Absolutely, man. And we're gonna have Brett on here to help us make some picks for the MHSAA state playoffs. Obviously, we're down to the state championship games this coming weekend. We got the evens on Friday and the odds on Saturday. So we're going to kind of go through here, starting with Division 8, and Brett, Kory, and I are all going to make our picks. And gentlemen, what do we got here? We just talked about what we got riding on the winner. We're going to have picks for these 8 games. And what's the winner getting here?
Beers. A growler of beers.
But Brett was very specific. What was the specified beer?
This is your ad opportunity, Brett. Give us the ad right here.
Is this our NIL? Can we get an NIL for Brick?
We're giving a shout. I think the NIL is to you, Vince, the member of the Mug Club at Brickhaven Brewing, Grand Ledge, Michigan.
Oh yeah, baby!
Free growler of beer, sponsored by the loser. So
Ed and Ben, Ed and Ben, where you guys at?
Ed and Ben, where you at?
Get our sponsorship over here for the podcast, the Brickhaven Brewing Company sponsorship. So the winner.
I'll take their black IPA, Kory and Vince. Just
the
so
Onyx Edge, baby.
The Onyx Edge, yep.
Onyx Edge,
the Eaton County Bitter.
ECB. Oh, that's
ECB?
another great.
That's a good one.
Grand Ledge, Michigan, man. Brickhaven's got some great beers. So the losers will be buying a growler of beer for the winner from Brickhaven Brewing Company in good old Grand Ledge, Michigan. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. When we're done going through our picks, we will also talk for a little bit about Michigan football, Michigan State football, and we're going to do some picks for those, hopefully as tiebreakers if there's a tie for the playoff picks. All right, so starting first here, we have Division 8. Beale City beat Ubly, and Hudson beat Ottawa Lake Whiteford. So you got Beale City and Hudson for the Division 8 state championship. Beale City and Hudson, both pretty big Division 8 powerhouses in terms of football. I just told these guys before we started, Beale City has only missed the playoffs 5 times since 1980. Quite an impressive stat. If you want to go ahead, guest picker Brett Johnson, who you got for this game, Beale City or Hudson?
I think I'm going to go with Hudson here. A little bit of a family story. One of my second cousins, his name is Hudson, and he was named after the city Hudson. My first cousins drove through town on the highway and they saw the name Hudson and they decided to name their firstborn son Hudson. So I'm going to go Hudson here.
That's deep.
It's deep.
Kory, who you got?
All right. After doing some in-depth research, I just saw that Hudson has pitched 7 shutouts this year in 13 games, which is only thing you would ever be able to do that is 8-man football. So for them to do it in Division 8, it's even more impressive. So I am also going with Hudson.
Yeah, that was something that stuck out to me too as I was looking here was defense. Obviously, Division 8 football, I don't want to, disparage Division 8 football, but there tends to be kind of a big gap at the lower levels in terms of the really good, like D6, 7, and 8, like the really good teams tend to just trash everybody, destroy everybody. But it's still impressive nonetheless when you can shut out that many teams in a season. And I also see that Beale City, while they had 1 loss on the year and it was by 1 point, their first game of the season, it was to a Ravenna team that while they did make the playoffs, doesn't quite have, the success and the history that these two teams have. So that makes me think that maybe Beale City has some weaknesses. They also had a forfeit win, so 1 less game that they did play this year. I think Hudson is the pick for me as well. They both had pretty close wins in their semifinal games. Hudson won by 6 and Beale City won by 5. So both pretty close games there. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with Hudson as well. So
I'm writing this down too. So
Hudson, you got it right. I was going to have to go back through the footage, but if you're going to write it down, great.
Hudson, you're good. I'll make a little spreadsheet and I'll send it to you.
Hudson all around. All right. So going to the next one here, let's move on. We got Division 7 playoffs, and we are going to talk a little bit here. We do have a local team in the state championship from the Lance. All 3 of us are from the Lansing Mid-Michigan area. Poama Westphalia back to the state championship for the 4th time now, I think in the last 6 years, 5 years, something like that. They've been to the state title 4 times. I think they've won it twice, 2 or 3 times. There was one time they were runner-up. Traverse City St. Francis was who PW beat at Cedar Springs last week, and I think that's a really impressive win. If you're not from the state of Michigan, Traverse City St. Francis has produced quite a few, for such a small school, has produced quite a few Division I players, especially Michigan State. The Bola family, that's got quite a long lineage of players. Traverse City St. Francis, quite a bit of history in football. So PW beat them 28-21, pretty impressive. Lawton also, who they are playing, a pretty impressive win, beat Jackson Lumen Christi by 1 point. Jackson Lumen Christi is another fairly
perennial
perennial powerhouse in small school football in the state of Michigan. They tend to get a lot of D1 talents because they're a private school. So it's kind of hush, but they can recruit. Wink, wink.
Don't tell them that.
Oh, come on. Everyone knows the Catholic schools recruit. Let's be real here.
The crazy stat about Jackson Lumen Christi is that they fund what am I trying to say here? They fund
braces or something?
Knee braces for their whole team, which is crazy.
Do they really?
Who does that? Yes.
That's insane.
So we've scrimmaged.
You would know that fact.
Well, we've scrimmaged Lumen Christi every year for 5 years now, and they always have all their old linemen have the knee braces, which you don't usually see that in high school, especially a small school.
Well, they had the guy that played for state and plays for the Colts now, the safety. What's his name?
Kari
trains with Nate.
Kari Willis.
Kari Willis.
Yeah,
yep, Kari Willis. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know they get a lot of impressive talent. Yeah, Lumen Christi has made the playoffs every year since 1998. Pretty impressive run. They've won 8 or 9 state titles at this point. So that's a big time win for Lawton by 1 point. Lawton is undefeated, having their best season in school history, most wins in school history. I personally think PW, I'll go ahead and start us off here. I think PW wins another one. PW, from reports from what I've heard, has lost a lot of guys to injuries this year and is still finding ways to win. Apparently they're quite far down the Pirates, quite far down the roster for quarterbacks. And I think it was their running backs too, that they kept suffering injuries, but PW has given up only 88 points on the year, and 42 of those points have come in the playoffs. So that's really impressive. Half those points were 21 to New Lothrop, who's really good, and 21 to St. Francis. So PW also played a really impressive schedule. They beat Lansing Catholic. They beat Olivet. They beat Redford Union, who's a Division IV school, 3 divisions higher than them. So they played, and obviously Fowler's a decent D8 school, beat Ithaca, New Lothrop, St. Francis. Pretty impressive wins for PW. I think they win. I think they're state champions for I think it'd be 3rd time.
I'll follow you up with that, Vince. I think PW is going to win. I checked it out in the last 6 years. They've gone to 5 state titles. The only year they didn't was last year, which was COVID, and they had a forfeit. So I did some research on the Twitter sphere and found some video footage of the Lawton, whatever they are, and they looked not great. So I'm going to go with local team PW.
All right, I think that brings it to me. Unfortunately, I'm going with PW too. We're all picking the same. Here we go here. The PW guys, those guys, I mean, even if they weren't still playing football, they'd be spending Thanksgiving together. It's just one big family over there in Pewamo.
Yeah,
between the Thalens, the Smiths, and the Truewires, that's the whole team. It's one big family. They got the chemistry. I'm going with the Pirates.
Hey, don't forget the Cooks are from Pewamo. Don,
my
grandpa Donald Cook from Pewamo, Michigan, Pewamo, Westphalia, or Westphalia.
There you go.
He was born in Westphalia.
They're deep. Lineage is deep.
I mean, you joke, but that community is very tight. That's a very tight, close-knit community, and I think that's represented in their football program for sure. Jeremy Miller,
got out of PW.
Jeremy Miller, that coach, he's had 100 wins in 9 seasons, and he hasn't even had
in 5 seasons.
9. No,
I know.
9.
No,
yeah.
I know, but it feels like
he coaches the JV team too.
But dude, he hasn't even had 10 losses yet. I think he's got like 1 loss a year since he started coaching there. I don't think he's lost more than 2 games in a season. He has like 9 losses,
crazy.
And I think 2 or 3 of them were in state titles or semifinals. I mean, he's got quite an impressive run going there. So, all right, let's move on here to Division 6. We have another Lansing area team, Mid-Michigan team in the Division 6 state championship, Lansing Catholic. Excuse me. And I believe this is Lansing Catholic's 3rd appearance in the last 10 years. They lost in 2011 in the state title. They won 2 years ago, or maybe this is their 4th appearance, because didn't they go to the state title? Was that last year? I'll pull it up right now. They lost in the semifinals last year. They did win the state championship in 2019. And then in 2014, they lost the state title in 2011. So this is their 4th state title appearance in 10 years. 2019 was their first state championship since they won one back in 1985. They went 13-0 in 1985. But Lansing Catholic, man, pretty impressive schedule as well. They lost at Pewamo, Westphalia by 5 points. Right at the end of that game, they beat a really good Williamston team. They beat Portland. That was one of the big upsets in the area earlier this year. Portland was undefeated, had a huge upset over DeWitt, which we'll get to here shortly. And they actually had a huge lead on Portland. Portland came back to take the lead with a 2-point conversion with like 2 minutes left, 29-28. And then Lansing Catholic won on a last-second field goal. Very impressive win, 31-29. So, yeah, Lansing Catholic, and they are playing Michigan Collegiate. And I believe is Michigan Collegiate the team that very sadly had the tragedy with the or am I thinking of a different team who had the players who passed away? They were former players who passed away at Faster Horses last year.
I think that's a different team. I think that's Michigan Center.
Was that Michigan Center, not Michigan Collegiate?
Yeah.
Okay. And actually,
either way,
they just
it's a
Michigan
unfortunate
Center
situation.
Well, Michigan Center had a heck of a run. I think that was who they just beat. Michigan Collegiate beat Michigan Center in the semifinals. So I did see that story somewhere that was like a big story. But Michigan Collegiate is a school that's only 13 years old in terms of football. So they are a very young football program. They just started their football team in 2008. Didn't play a full season until the next year in 2009. They've made the playoffs every year since 2009. This is their first state title appearance, though. I'm somewhat impressed. They played Detroit Country Day. That was one of their losses. Got beat by Milan. I'm let's have Kory hasn't gone first yet. Kory, you go first. Let's see what your pick is first.
All right. I am going to go with Warren, Michigan Collegiate.
What's your reason? What are you backing up here?
I don't like LCC.
Gut check.
Gut check. Brett, what do you got?
I got to stay with the hometown team. I'm going with Lansing Catholic. They got a great program. Shout out, I already mentioned his name earlier, but shout out to Cooper Rush, former Chippewa, started for the Cowboys a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that was cool.
On late night football in place of Dak Prescott. That was really cool. He actually got the win.
He got the win. Yep. Very impressive.
Gotta be, I can't remember the last NFL quarterback that, besides from Kirk Cousins, that started a game. So good to see that. And then also Tony Poljan. I don't know that. I think he was on the 2014 team that led LC to the Ford Field. He played for Minnesota and then transferred to Virginia as a tight end. He was supposed to go to Michigan State, and he transferred out of there.
Played with the older brother at Hillsdale for a short stint as well.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he a Cougar as well?
Yes, and his first name escapes me. He was a freshman my senior year, so I didn't really get to know him very well. But the Poljans have a lot of talent. There's quite a few. Because I think, is there 3 of them? There's either 3 or 4 of them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I thought there was only 1. Seems like there's more, but yeah, no, I'm going with Cougars.
I think, at least 3. I am also picking Lansing Catholic. I am pretty impressed with some of their wins. I mean, obviously, Lansing Catholic has also beaten some teams that aren't very good, but I think they're battle tested. Playing at Palm West their last game of the year. They beat Standish Sterling, who had a pretty impressive season, although Standish Sterling, it was one of their best seasons in a while. But they also beat Montague, or is it Montague? Montague?
Montague.
Okay, I thought I pronounced it
Montague.
Right. I just wanted to check. I didn't want to sound like a jackass, so I was glad I said it right the first time. Montague is another one of these storied smaller teams. I mean, they're another program that has won multiple state titles. Montague was the defending Division VI state champs. So Lansing Catholic knocked off pretty handily the defending 6 state champs. Michigan Collegiate also should have had 3 wins. One of their wins was a forfeit win. Chandler Park beat them and apparently forfeited it later on. So technically they should have 3 losses. So I just think Lansing Catholic, I think they're going to take this one. All right, let's move on here to the next division. Let's go Division 5. And in Division 5, we have in the state semifinals, in the state championship, we got Grand Rapids Catholic Central, Division 5 powerhouse, and Marine City. Marine City beat mid-Michigan local team Portland. So another greater Lansing area team, Portland, who has had a lot of success over the last 10 years. Went all the way to the semis and got beat by Marine City. Marine City, though, is no slouch either. I'm going to go with Grand Rapids Catholic Central. I'll kick us off here. Grand Rapids Catholic Central, from what I've heard, has several D1 prospects on that team. They always do. All the Catholic League schools, no matter how big or small, seem to always get some of the best talent in their area. And from what I've heard, Grand Rapids Catholic Central is no exception. So I am going to go with Grand Rapids Catholic Central for the Division 5 state championship.
You can take it, Brett.
All right, I can go next. I'm going GRCC as well. You know, in the last 6 years, they have 4 losses. And in the playoffs this year, they've had 12 points against. They're a pretty strong program. Like Vince mentioned, they have Division 1 guys. They got a guy going to Notre Dame this year. They got a junior quarterback. They'll probably go Power 5, low Power 5 next year. They're a strong program here. Living in Grand Rapids, I got to go with the Grand Rapids team. So, once again, go Cougars.
I'm right there with Brett. I'm going to go with GRCC. I was actually at the Portland Marine City game. My brother plays for Portland, and it was probably the sloppiest football game I've ever seen. Portland had 5 turnovers inside the 40. One of them was a scoop and score. For Marine City, and then Portland also dropped a scoop and score of their own, and so it just was a bad game. And they had a touchdown also called back late in the game. So I didn't see anything out of Marine City that I thought, hey, this is going to even compete with Grand Rapids Catholic. A buddy of mine actually coaches at Frankenmuth, and after talking to him, Grand Rapids Catholic was just better than they were. I mean, there wasn't any questions or ifs, ands, buts, or coconuts. So GRCC for me.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't pass over the fact that Marine City is also, while they might not be the powerhouse recently that Grand Rapids Catholic Central is, Marine City has quite a bit of history. Marine City has missed the playoffs once since 1998 and has had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19, 10 or more win seasons. And been to
it's
multiple,
a good program.
Yeah, and they've been and won multiple state championships as well. I just think Marine City, as much history as they have and as good as they are, I think they are running into a current, I don't know if I'd use the word dynasty with high school football, but
it's a dynasty.
Well,
it's
like
a
you
dynasty.
just said, Brett, the stretch that GRCC is on over the last 6 seasons is incredible.
And normally they play. Sometimes they play D4 too.
It is. It's almost like insane. That Ithaca run. Yeah. I mean, like Brett said, they have 4 losses in 6 years, and 2 of those were in state championships, and another one was in a semifinal. So very impressive run. 3 undefeated seasons in that time as well. So as good as Marine City is, as much history as they have, I just think they're running into a better team in Grand Rapids Catholic Central. So, all right.
If I could just add something real quick here.
Absolutely.
It's been a topic in the MHSAA for so long. They need to segregate parochial schools and public schools. It needs to happen.
How would you? So this is
not enough schools.
This is a good stopping point because we've gotten through. We're exactly halfway through. So good stopping point before we finish the other half. How would you do that though with the state already having 10 divisions if you count the 2 8-man divisions? So would you realign that whole thing?
I think what you do is you knock down the public schools to 6 divisions, and then you have 2 divisions for the parochial schools. You have a 1 and you got a 2.
You got the big ones.
The 1 you have like the big dogs, like the
inner city Catholic schools,
Warren de La Salle, yada yada yada. You know, it might actually be a more condensed playoff because there's not as many teams. But a lot of those parochial schools play teams from out of state anyways. But it needs to happen. Yeah. It's not fair to the kids that go to the public schools that are playing with their buddies that they grew up with in the same neighborhood. And then you got a team like Grand Rapids Catholic Central that they probably got a guy from every corner of the town of Grand Rapids. It's not fair. And, you know, you got to respect the programs like that. They got great players, great coaches. But if you're pulling guys from outside of your area, like the transfer portal is one thing in college. You got the transfer portal in MHSAA. And it's not fair. And
I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you in the sense that it's definitely a glaring problem in the state of Michigan where in plenty of years past, at least 4 of the 8 state champions were Catholic schools, sometimes more. And it's what you're saying is they are poaching. You know, we kind of talked about earlier, and it tends to be a little bit taboo in the state of Michigan, but some of those Catholic schools poach from other communities, right? They take kids away. And, you know, I'm not saying there's necessarily anything illegal being done. You know, I'm sure there are some things that being done that gets, you know, that not talked about, but at the same time, you know, kids can choose to go to whatever Catholic school they want to, but when high school coaches in small town communities like a Portland, for example, we were just talking about,
those St. Pat's, they got one. It's just
they have one too, but Portland St. Pat's is
they're 8-man.
They're 8-man because they're so small. Yeah. But those coaches at a school like Portland can't drive around the area and go recruit kids. You can't do that. I mean, it's not possible, but those Catholic schools, they can, because guess what? You can live wherever you want. And as long as you enroll here, because it's a private school, you can commute. Right. And I don't know the extent of I don't know what if there's scholarships for some of these high school Catholic schools or Christian schools. I don't know if they do that or not, because technically, it's private, so you got to pay a tuition. It's not funded by tax money. So I don't know if some of those kids, if somehow they work it out with the school where they don't, they get a I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you guys can.
I think there's a little bit of gray area there. That's for sure. I know Kory is just going to spit it out, but 5 out of the 16 teams in the championship are parochial schools. I mean, it's like that every it's like that every single year. I mean, you got nearly a third of the teams they're recruiting from their area, and you see the same thing in basketball. They got great teams. It makes for a great championship, but sometimes you get a lopsided state championship, and most of those lopsided state championships is because you got a parochial school rolling over some small schools. So it's unfortunate, and I think it's something, there's a lot of adaptive ideas going on in sports right now, and I think the MHSAA needs to adjust their philosophy. I think what they do is great, although another discussion would be every team makes the playoffs. I know some states like Indiana, every football team makes the playoffs like they did in Michigan last year with COVID. But I do think the parochial schools, they deserve their own league. I think it would make it fair, but I mean, who am I? I'm just a guy off the street.
Yeah, the everyone makes the everyone makes the playoff concept definitely a conversation piece for a lot of people last year, because obviously we experimented with that here in the state of Michigan with COVID. So people didn't have to worry about scheduling with all the cancellations. And there's an argument to be had for it. I mean, every other sport, everyone makes the playoffs. I mean, baseball, everyone makes the playoffs. Basketball, everyone makes the playoffs. I would argue that for football, I like the idea that the regular season means something in terms of the postseason, but I thought the playoff system, the brand new playoff system that was implemented this year, I really liked. Terrible. You didn't like it?
There was some teams that were 6-3 that didn't make it, and there was teams that were like 4-5 that made it.
I like that. Now I'm not saying it's perfect. I think it still has some things that need to be worked out, but I like the idea that if you play a tougher schedule, and you still manage to win with that tougher schedule, that even if you don't quite win 5 games, and I know there's an argument.
I was going to say, I would say you have to.
Losing team
that's the same problem. That's the same problem in college football. Cincinnati is number 4 tonight. I mean, it's so subjective to who you play and who you beat. As well as I do, you can't compare games, and you can't compare the opponent at different points in the season.
Yeah, but here's the glaring difference though between the MHSAA playoffs and compare it to like college football. There's only 60 something teams in each division. That's it.
Yeah.
So like Division 1, half in every division, half the teams are getting in anyway.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So like if you go through and look at the teams that missed the playoffs in each division, like you said, there were a couple 6-3, but if you add up all the teams that won 6 games, no teams that won 7 missed the playoffs. If you won 7 or more games, you made the playoffs. But from top to bottom, Division 1 through Division 8, the number of teams that missed the playoffs that won 6 games was like 4 or 5. And if you won 6 games in D1, D2, and D3, you got in. I think D4 or 5 was the first division where a 6-3 team missed. And that's just, they're valuing some of those harder schedules with bigger schools and things like that. So it's a flawed, the new system's not perfect, but now Flint Powers Catholic went 3-6 or 2-7. I think they were 3-6 and got in the playoffs in Division 5, but they played 4 D1 schools, 4 divisions bigger than them. They're in the same conference as Davison, Grand Blanc, and Lapeer.
They just changed conferences for next year.
Did they really? Yeah,
I
never understood why they were.
Yeah, because they're getting. Yeah, they can't compete.
They can't play with against those schools. But so people were upset about that. But I'm like, dude, they're playing schools 4 divisions bigger than them that have all this D1 talent. So I get it. There's arguments definitely to be had both ways. But there's a lot of people who didn't like the playoff system this year, but I thought it was a step in the right direction. I mean, you could take us for example. Coaching at Grand Ledge, we didn't. We started the season strong at 4-0, but we didn't really play anyone very good. We finished 6-3. beat the teams we should, lost to the best teams we played. We almost missed the playoffs. We were the third or fourth team from the bottom, 28 or 29. We were pretty close.
And
to
unfortunately, our conference, we don't play any Division I schools.
Holt's the only one.
Holt's
yeah.
The only one.
And congratulations, you get to play Rockford at Rockford first game.
Yeah, just nine times.
Happy birthday!
9 times in 29 years or 30 years we've played them in the playoffs. So
it's all right. The Comets have pulled through here and there, but the Rams had a
3
good
times.
Team.
We're 3-6 against them all the time. All right. Let's move on here to Division 4. Honestly, Division 4 has one of the most intriguing matchups and possibly one of the best teams in the state, regardless of division, in Hudsonville Unity Christian. I was texting, I think, both of you guys about this last weekend. Hudsonville Unity Christian has quite the numbers. They are the highest scoring team in the state, regardless of division. 751 points. They are averaging 50 points a game. All right, that's, I believe, more than 50 points a game. So one of you wants to do the quick math, 751 divided by 13. I'm pretty sure that might be right around 50 or more. What do you got?
50.0.
50 even? 751 divided by, 50 points per game. How about 165 divided by 13? That's what they're giving up. That's another impressive
13, 12.7.
Averaging 50, giving up 13. That is impressive. They have scored 50, 58, 65, 57, 54, 69, 55, 67, 79 in the district championship game on Grand Rapids Christian. That's probably the most impressive win, to beat Grand Rapids Christian 79-21. Edwardsburg, who they play in the semifinal, they beat 58.
Powerhouse Edwardsburg.
Edwardsburg's a heck of a D4 program, man. They've been to the playoffs for 12 straight years. They've won a couple state championships, and they beat them 58-8. I'm assuming a unanimous pick for us here, but this Hudsonville Unity Christian team is incredible.
My issue is that Chelsea, who also has great history, really plays nobody.
Chelsea does not have a very tough schedule.
No. And they struggled with Freeland. Detroit Country Day was probably a good game. I don't know anything about them, but they're normally good.
Country Day has some decent history and been to some state championships. That's probably their best win in the regional championship game. I know Freeland has had some good seasons, but their regular season schedule for Chelsea is pretty soft.
Average, yeah.
No offense to them, but part of it's their conference.
All offense to them. Fuck them.
Their conference is pretty weak. I just think that Hudsonville Unity Christian is going to roll them. I again, like you just mentioned, Chelsea has had quite a bit of success themselves. Since 1999. They've missed the playoffs once. They've been to the state championship, I think, 3 or 4 times now. I believe, did they win the state championship in 2000?
I think they did.
They've lost it in recent years. I thought maybe they didn't win it. Maybe they've gone and lost it every time. They've gone and lost it every time in recent years. They have not actually won it, but they've gone a few times. I just think that Hudsonville Unity Christian is going to be too much. I really do. Hudsonville Unity Christian was just in the state championship in 2018, and they beat Portland 42-7 in 2018. I know this is a completely different team, but Hudsonville Unity Christian too. I mean, this is a team that didn't play football until 2004, 2003. So pretty impressive program that's been built in just less than 20 years. But that's my pick. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else.
I agree.
Fill me in. Unity by 40. I'm not kidding. They're gonna roll.
They beat one of the best teams in their division by 50 last week, so
they're gonna roll.
I wouldn't be surprised. So, all right, moving on to Division 3. Then another local team. We had 2 local teams playing in the Division 3 semifinals. So there were 5 Greater Lansing teams that made the semifinals. I think I saw in the LSJ since the CAAC was formed, consolidated the CAC and a couple other local conferences back in 2002 or 3, whenever it was. This is the first time ever that 4 CAAC schools made the semifinals the same year. So we had Portland, Lansing Catholic, DeWitt, and Mason. Mason had their best season in school history. Very cool for them. Their first 10-win season in school history, first semifinal appearance. Unfortunately, they ran to one of the best teams in the entire state, regardless of division.
One of the best teams probably in the Midwest.
I was just going to say maybe in the Midwest.
Yep.
We were just talking up Hudsonville Unity Christian, but Detroit Martin Luther King might be one of the best teams in the Midwest. Their only loss in the season is at Carmel, Indiana on a Hail Mary, the first game of the year.
Second play.
Yeah, by 2 points, Hail Mary, first game of the year. They beat Muskegon Mona Shores by 21. They beat Kaz Tech twice. They've beat River Rouge, who was the state champions 2 years ago. So pretty impressive team. Now, their opponent is another area team in DeWitt, the defending Division III state champs. DeWitt is having a very impressive year. We were just talking about scoring. DeWitt has scored 614 points. So they're averaging something like 40 points per game, more than 40 points per game. So they're having a heck of a season. DeWitt's biggest problem all year is they tend to give up quite a few points. They've had more than 20 scored on them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And Detroit Martin Luther King defensively has not given up quite as many points as DeWitt has. So this is an intriguing matchup. Let's have, how about Kory? How about you run us off on this one?
I haven't started yet.
Brett hasn't started one. Brett, you started.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I thought I had you start one.
I'm itching for my pick. It's King. They're Detroit King for a reason. King of every division they play in. They're gonna win. DeWitt's a great team. They're a great program. Rob Zimmerman, he's been coaching there for well over a decade. They run a great program.
He's been there since 97 or 98. Yeah.
Yeah, going on 3 decades. Heck of a program at DeWitt, but this King program, they have so many athletes rolling through there. It's a public school, but it's a parochial school. It really is. They're gonna win by 2 scores at least. Mona Shores gave them a fit in the last couple of years, but Brady Rose from Mona Shores is gone. They played Mona Shores again this year and rolled them. DeWitt's got a couple of guys going D1 this year, but I don't see King losing this game. I just don't.
Kory?
I think it's the best matchup in the state finals, though. I will say that.
The D Zone, who we should give a shout out to, obviously our
Tate
podcast, our Tate, our D Zone friend who's working for the D Zone. The D Zone obviously does all things high school football in Michigan, while we're over here doing all things football in the state of Michigan. But we got to give them a shout out. They have ranked these teams, and their rankings all year have been pretty consistent in terms of week to week. Haven't changed a ton. And for the majority of the year, they've had DeWitt and Martin Luther King in the top 5. And coming into this last game, they now have them 1 and 2. And I think, regardless of division, I think that's pretty reasonable to have those 2 teams as easily 2 of the top 5 teams in the entire state, regardless of division. So, Kory, you want to make your pick, and then I'll make mine?
Yep. I kind of want to lean towards DeWitt, but I'm going to pick MLK just for the fact DeWitt's given up points all year. I don't see them stopping MLK's quarterback as well as the rest of the talent they have on the field. So I'm going to go with MLK, which will probably, I kind of agree with Brett, it'll be a 2 to 3 score game.
All right, just to be contrarian, and because someone's gotta set the others apart here, I'm going to go with DeWitt. I agree with you guys on everything you're saying. I think you're both 100% right. And I think DeWitt is going to have their biggest test of the year by far. The DeWitt team last year that won the state championship, obviously in a weird year, but that DeWitt team also had a very impressive win over Muskegon, and they also rolled the defending state champs in River Rouge. That DeWitt team, though, and they rolled De La Salle in a non-conference game. That DeWitt team, though, had a lights out defense. In 12 games, gave up 80 points. This DeWitt team has given up 200 points in 13 games, one more game, given up 120 points in only one more game, 120 more points. So that has been their weakness from last year's team. They lost some linebackers and D linemen who were very talented seniors last year. Now their offense, I think, is even better. They've scored more points and had an even higher scoring offense this year than they did last year. This is actually Rob Zimmerman's highest scoring offense he has ever had. This is the first team he has ever had.
That's impressive.
Yep. It's the first team Zimmerman has ever had to score 600 points in a season. And you're talking about Zimmerman had 3 straight state title appearances in 02, 03, 04. None of those teams hit 600. State title appearance in 2013. That team didn't even hit 500. And the team last year obviously only played 12 games, but that team only hit 496. So the highest, and they still have one more game to play. I mean, this team might end up scoring over 650 points.
Hot take: Rob Zimmerman retires.
That's a conversation to be had. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires, but there's rumors. There have been rumors. I don't know about I don't know about retiring. There's rumors circulating that he might go college.
This has been rumors for a year. I don't really know what he has for juniors coming into next season, but his senior class is super strong. So if you're going to bounce,
he's going to still have talent, but this senior class has 4 or 5 D1 prospects.
Yeah. Is he 50 or
D1 commits?
Is he 50 or is he younger?
He's in his 50s.
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah, I mean,
you've seen that man walk. He doesn't even have hips anymore.
Yeah, he's a John Gruden. He's a CAC John Gruden.
Yeah, I
half the bowl cut though.
I think this is going to be one of Zimmerman and DeWitt's biggest tests they've ever had. Obviously, their 6th state championship appearance since he's been there. Opportunity to win their second in a row as well, over one of the best D2, D3. MLK tends to move up between D2 and D3 depending on enrollment. Best programs in the state in terms of that division. But I'm going to pick DeWitt just because I really do think DeWitt has a chance. I think if DeWitt can score quickly, which they have all year, and find a way to create some turnovers for King, then maybe they can find a way to pull off a 1-score win, a close game. So, all right, let's move on. We got 2 divisions left here. Let's wrap things up, and then we'll talk briefly about Michigan State and end this sucker. All right, Division 2, another incredible team. And incredible matchup. 2 of them. Traverse City Central. Traverse City Central is a team. This is why I think DeWitt's impressive. DeWitt played Traverse City Central the first game of the year at the Big House and beat Traverse City Central 47-27. Since then, Traverse City Central not only has not lost since, they have scored over 600 points since then. They've actually scored more points than DeWitt on the season. Now, I will say this: Traverse City Central plays a pretty awful regular season schedule. They play a lot of smaller D3, D4, and even D5 schools up north. But
they beat the Chiefs off of South Line.
I
didn't finish.
Hold
on.
Also
okay, I'll let you finish.
Well, I was just going to say they did schedule a couple tough non-conference games to end the year. They beat Brother Rice 56-13, which was an eye-opening win. They beat North Farmington 56-0, and then they have had some very, very impressive playoff wins. They beat a red-hot Caledonia team 42-14 in the regional, and then, like you said, South Line was, I think, undefeated 56-20. So some very, very impressive numbers. Unfortunately, they are going up against Warren De La Salle, going back to Brett's argument, Catholic schools, parochial schools. Warren De La Salle was back-to-back state champions in 17-18. And then had to forfeit the playoffs in 2019 because of some disciplinary problems. Yeah, some very messed up problems in the program. Last year, De La Salle was the, I think, only team who made it to the state championship with a losing record because everyone made the playoffs last year. They went 2-4 in the regular season and lost the state title by 6 points to Mona Shores. Very interesting matchup because Warren De La Salle is undefeated, and beat teams like Brother Rice, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, Detroit Catholic Central. Now, 3 of their wins are over Detroit Jesuits. They played Detroit Jesuit 3 times, and Detroit Jesuit is like the redheaded stepchild of that Detroit Catholic League.
In football.
In football, correct. I don't know, Brett, you want to kick us off first again? We'll give you back-to-back leads here.
Yeah, first off, so Traverse City Central and I believe Traverse City West are both joining a Saginaw conference for next year.
I heard about that. Interesting.
So it's interesting. Yeah, interesting. We brought up strength of schedule, but I mean, you still play half your games at home. So,
yep.
But nonetheless, Joshua Burnham, remember the name. This kid, he's committed to Notre Dame. He's the second Notre Dame commit that's playing in the state championships this year. This kid is the truth, man. I've seen some highlights of him. He plays like 6 positions. He just runs over kids. I mean, he looks like a Division I player, playing Division VIII football in high school. Like, he just runs through guys. He's projected to play linebacker in college. Right now, I heard that. Yep. He's up for a national finalist. He's one of 6 people in the nation that are awarded the Butkus Award, which is the best linebacker in high school football. That announcement will be on December 7th. So he's top 6 linebacker in the nation. 247 has him ranked 117 4-star. And this kid, he's going to lead this team to a title. I've seen some highlights. Like I'd mentioned earlier, D-Zone Tate, he's watched him a few times. He just watched him roll over Caledonia in the snow.
That was an impressive ago. Very
this guy, normally in football, it's more than a one player that leads the team. In basketball, you get one good guy that can bring the team to the state championship. But this guy, I mean, when you play 6 positions, he's going to win this thing for the Trojans. Pop the Trojans, baby.
He's like a Matt Bonet. He's going to win it for him.
A little more athletic. Just kidding. I love Matt. He's a good guy, but this kid's a freak.
I'm also going with TC Central.
Oh, decisions. I'm trying to decide. Do I be the contrarian again or not?
You had a cousin. You had a cousin that coached at Warren De La Salle. Come on.
I did. My cousin was the varsity baseball coach.
Olivia with the refill.
Look at Olivia. Nice.
Tell Olivia to walk over to my house and give me one.
Yeah, Olivia, you're wanted.
Man. I really want to be the contrarian just to kind of break this podcast open a little bit because we have so many unanimous picks here.
Bye, Nick.
But that Traverse City Central team, I do think they've had an impressive run here. I think Warren De La Salle, while they also have had some very impressive seasons recently, I think the Catholic League is down a bit this year, the Detroit Catholic League, because DCC got rocked twice this year by Chippewa Valley, their first game, and West Bloomfield beat them by 14 in the district finals. St. Mary's also not a very strong season from them, and Brother Rice, not a very strong season from them. What is that? What you pointing at over there?
Archie just found a spot in the bed.
Oh, little Archie. So I just feel like the Detroit Catholic League, while I don't think they're not impressive anymore, I think that they are kind of slowing down a bit. So I just don't think Warren De La Salle's wins and schedule has been quite as impressive as Traverse City Central. I think you're talking about a Traverse City Central program that's having its best season since it won the state championship in 1988. It's their first 10-win season since then. First time they've been to a state championship since then. So it's been a while since they've had that success. That was also around the time. It was only a few years before they split into 2 high schools. They split into 2 high schools in 1997. And then the talent, and then they had a lot of problems, TC Central and TC West for a while. I'm going to go with TC Central. I'm going to have to, I don't think Warren De La Salle has had quite as an impressive run as TC Central has had here. So, all right.
And real quick, anytime your quarterback is offered by Bama, you're probably going to win the state title in Michigan.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, man. Pretty hard to argue with that. All right.
Same with MLK.
Yeah.
Hopefully he goes to
Moore.
Michigan.
True.
He's only a junior.
Hopefully he goes to Michigan though.
That Dante Moore's a junior.
Devin Gardner's been working that for a while, so hopefully it pays off.
All right. Let's wrap up the MHSAA playoff picks here with Division I, biggest division in the state of Michigan. Obviously, if you're from different states, the divisions are organized a little bit differently. Sometimes one is the smallest. We have Rochester Adams, who had not had as much success in recent years as they had in the early parts of the 2000s. They won a state championship back in 2003. We're a D2 school for a while. They were actually the smallest school in Division I this year by enrollment. They only have 2 D1 athletes on their team, and they have had a heck of a run. They play in probably one of the tougher conferences in the state, in that Oakland conference. Now, they don't play in the best division, but they do have quite a non-conference schedule. They beat West Bloomfield. They beat a solid Oxford team. Detroit Renaissance, who upset Cass Tech. They beat Lapeer, Oxford, West Bloomfield, and a red-hot Grand Blanc team in the playoffs. They are playing – oh, absolutely. They're playing
Grand Blanc
Belleville.
is good. Yeah.
They are playing Belleville, who has come up short. God, you got to feel bad for Belleville, man. Belleville has come up short about 3 times in the last 4 years. Belleville lost in the semifinal by a point last year. They lost by 3 points in the semifinals in 2019. They lost by 12 points in the semifinals in 2018. They just keep coming up short. So this is their first time in school history getting to a state championship. So pretty cool for Belleville. Belleville has 17 D1 prospects on their football team.
Their quarterback is a freshman, and he's got a rocket launcher bazooka for an arm. I don't know if you've seen him throw the ball, but he's got a missile launcher. So
that's a nice way of putting it.
I will kick this one off. I also think it's very interesting. You guys were started to mention Grand Blanc. I think it's very crazy that Grand Blanc is the second biggest school in the state of Michigan by enrollment, that the smallest D1 school crushed them last week, 40-20.
And
Rochester Adams.
Those Grand Blanc kids, those are some athletes. They won the state championship in basketball
and baseball,
the state championship in baseball, semifinalists in football. I mean, that's no slouch of a team. Those guys are battle tested. They know. Well,
and even though they didn't make it to the state championship in football, this was their best season in school history. First time in the semifinals, first 12-win season.
Which is insane to think about because they had Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram that played for them in 2009, former Alabama and current NFL player Mark Ingram.
Very impressive win for Rochester Adams. All right, I can kick this one off. I got Rochester Adams, man. I was very impressed by that Grand Blanc win. Grand Blanc had rolled like everybody this year. They had 2 close wins. They had their first 3 non-conference games were pretty close, but they beat Davison 43-7. They beat Lapeer 30-6. They beat Rockford, who had a very impressive quarterback in Zach Ahern. They crushed Howell. Howell at one point was undefeated on the season. I know they kind of dropped a few games late. But I am very impressed with Rochester Adams. I think they pull the upset. I would imagine most people have Belleville as the favorite with all those D1 players and a Belleville team that's come up short recently and really looking for that first state championship win. But I'm going to go with Rochester Adams.
Belleville gets their first state title. They've been rolling people all year. Like I said, that quarterback, I watched some clips on him. That kid's he'll be a 5-star quarterback recruit, another one coming out of the Detroit area. So I'm going to go with Belleville.
You know, Vince, you mentioned that the Detroit Catholic League is a little soft this year. You almost wonder if some of those kids stayed in their Rochester area and attended the local Rochester Adams High School. But
I mean, pretty big if you look at their records from 2008 to 2021. Crazy to see the 13-0, and they hadn't had more than 8 or 9 wins in the last 12 years, and now all of a sudden they're 13-0 in a state title. I think something's to be said that something's going on over there in the last year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but you know, I'm kind of battling hype over heart right now. You got the heart of the Rochester Adams team. It's probably a brotherhood. Those guys have all lived together. Belleville probably playing the transfer portal pretty good. I think ultimately I got to go with Rochester Adams. I think that Vincent Gray, he's a cornerback for the Michigan Wolverines. He's going to bring the Wolverines a victory this weekend. Former Rochester Adam corner. I'm going with Rochester Adams.
All right. Look at
Pulling
that.
the upset.
All right, baby. That's what I'm talking
Bold
Hard
strategy,
over height,
Cotton.
baby. Hard over
Bold
height.
strategy, Cotton.
See if it pays off for him.
See if it pays off. Well, all right. So Kory's got all the picks written down there. I don't think we had a lot of varying opinions for quite a few of them, but I think there's enough there where we could hopefully have a winner. Was there only 3 or 4 where we had people who did 3 that weren't unanimous picks?
That's all we needed, though. 1 each. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see what happens there. But we're going to talk about 2 more teams and a couple other picks here. So maybe that will help if we need a tiebreaker. All right. So to end the podcast here, we are going to talk a little Michigan and Michigan State football. Brett is a huge Michigan fan. So this is right up his alley. He kind of likes Michigan. He just likes them just a little bit. So this is how we'll end the podcast here. First, let's get the ugly out of the way. Michigan State, unfortunately, laid a stinker on the road at Ohio State. I am a huge Michigan State fan. Gave me PTSD from my coaching performance at DeWitt earlier this year. I took all the blame for that, man. I got my ass out coached. We were down 50-8 at halftime, and watching Michigan State down 49-0 at halftime. That was all I was thinking about. So I was like, God, this hurts.
You're still walking. You're not waddling.
Oh God. Very ugly performance. Sorry. Now, with that being said, I think there is some more subtleties and nuance to this loss that could be had. There's some more gray area. I don't think it's so black and white. I think there is context in terms of the fact that Michigan State was not expected to win more than 4 to 6 games this year. People said 6 games was on the high end. Kory's going to roll his eyes at me, but this is true. You can go back and look at any preseason projections.
Same for Michigan,
People said, we're not to Michigan yet. Hold on. I know I'm outnumbered 2-1 here. So that's why I'm going first, because I'm sure we'll talk about Michigan for hours. So Michigan State, obviously Mel Tucker has far exceeded expectations here. Now, there is something to be said about the schedule, but I still think a 9-win season, with 1 game left, is still pretty impressive considering where they've come from the last couple of years. A new coach who really hasn't proven himself as a head coach, and just to win that many games in a Power 5 conference schedule, regardless of how good some of them are, to me is impressive to win those 9 games. Now, that's also going off of the loss. Ohio State, I also think, is easily one of the best teams in the country. After we can talk about this in a second, because obviously Michigan's going to be playing Ohio State. I don't think anyone's better than Ohio State other than maybe Georgia. Georgia is by far the favorite to win the national championship, but Ohio State is unbelievable. I think they just keep getting better. They had the loss at home to Oregon early on, and I think they've just have gotten better and better and better. They exploited Michigan State pretty handily. Obviously, in the passing game, Michigan State has not even hyperbole, like literally the worst passing defense in the country in all of FBS football, and they took them to it. So give their coaching staff credit, but they also have some incredible athletes in Michigan State's defensive backfield. Couldn't keep up. I also got to criticize this coordinator, the defensive coordinator. Being a defense coordinator myself, I don't understand all of the cover, all the one high safety look. A lot of times they do disguise it with 2 high safeties, or they try to roll to it, but I don't know why they run so much cover 1 and cover 3 when obviously their defensive backs cannot handle it. I think there's something to be said about the pass with the no-fly zone that they feel like they got to run a lot of man-to-man, which I understand. You got to run man-to-man to get some pressure up front, and their best asset defensively is their D-line and their linebackers from Michigan State. Their run defense is pretty solid, but they did not do a good job of creating pressure up front either on Saturday. I mean, I
was going to say it was probably the worst
all the time in the world
to
throw. All the time in the world to throw. I mean, it was pretty miserable in terms of getting pressure. I still think Michigan State has a favorable matchup at home on Senior Day against Penn State. It's a game they could easily lose. Penn State's not a bad team. I think they're maybe slightly above average in the Big Ten this year. But I think it's a game they can win. If they were to go 10-2, go into a bowl game, holy crap, it'd be the best. I already saw an article about it. It'd be the best season. It'd be the first time a Michigan State coach won 10 or more games in his second year in school history in their 130 years of football. So be a pretty impressive feat if they were able to pull that off. So, and obviously a potential New Year's Six bowl on the line. They win, they got a New Year's Six bowl. So
Brady Hoke did that at Michigan, and he was ass. He beat Virginia Tech to win 10 or 11 games that year, Brett.
11. Why didn't we give him the 95 mil 10-year contract? You know, I'm in the weeds waiting for that one. But
Uh,
my
who are you
argument,
picking, Kory? Who do you got?
No, I'll address that because Kory wanted to talk about this on the pod and we haven't talked about it yet. I think there's two
it's to
sides
beat the
it.
market. That's the truth.
No, well, I think there's again. I
It
think this is
is,
something
yeah.
that has some
Yep.
nuance and subtlety. We don't have to be so hyperbolic about it. I do think that the contract is pretty absurd. I think you're like, what? He's coached 3 years as a college football coach, as a head coach. You know, he's had many, many years as an assistant, but only 3 as a head coach, and you're offering him the second highest contract. I think it'll be the third. Actually, I think Saban's higher, and I think
Franklin just signed one today.
No,
it's Dabo. It's
Dabo and Orgeron were higher, but Orgeron's getting fired. So
Orgeron's gone. Dabo's going to be higher by a few thousand. It's barely higher.
Dan Mullen
Franklin
was
just
higher
signed
too,
one
but
today.
Dan Mullen, Franklin just got a 10-year, but
Franklin's is not higher than Mel's though.
Franklin just got he'll
10
be
years,
9 mil a
95.
year, and Mel will be 9.5 a year. So
What
Mel
would
will
you
be
say
higher.
Franklin's was?
9 mil a year. So
Mel's is higher.
Mel is higher by $500,000 a year. So good for Mel, man.
Which is $5 million over 10 years. That's a shit ton of money.
I mean, Dan Mullen just got fired yesterday, I think, and he got paid $12 million at his firing. I mean,
that's crazy.
I think I'd want to get fired.
The money's insane. But going back to what I was saying, I think it's an insane contract, but I also think when you have the context that you have 2 billionaire MSU alumni privately funding and structuring the contract, I don't know. I haven't seen reports on if any or if how much or if any money is coming from the school or the athletic department. It sounds like the majority of it is coming from, if not all of it, from 2 billionaires. So, I mean, if that's how they want to spend their money, who gives a shit? As a Michigan State fan, I'm happy with it because if you have
sounds like a terrible investment.
If you have a Brady Hoke situation, obviously that's disappointing, but why not hold on to a coach who is about to have one of the greatest second seasons in school history? Again, we can reassess it 5 or 6 years from now. I will eat my own words. Obviously, if he does terrible after this, that would really suck. But I think there's a lot of things in place right now between some of the things with alumni and the facilities and recruiting and excitement around the program. I'm okay with it, especially when it's coming from 2 private billionaires. As a Michigan State fan, this is the last thing I'm going to say. As a Michigan State fan, at the end of the day, I am ecstatic that we have the possibility of having a 10 or 11 win season after we had the last couple seasons we had. And I was expecting maybe 6 wins this year and a bowl game.
Go ahead.
If we were lucky. So
I was just going to say, I think they were trying to get ahead of the market. I don't think it's super stupid. I think it's really high risk with potentially just to fall flat on your face. Like we just said, if it's being privately funded, who gives a shit? It's not like the university has to cut a check. They also didn't release really any information on what was guaranteed and what wasn't. So who knows? I mean, they could just say 9 mil a year, but if we cut you free after 3 years because you suck, it's not guaranteed. You're just SOL. Yeah. So,
I think the key thing with Michigan State is, rightfully so, all Michigan State wants to do is beat Michigan. They don't give a shit if they go 5-7. If you beat Michigan, it's a good year. And unfortunately for Michigan fans, our perspective is we got to beat Michigan State. That's why you've never met a happy Michigan football fan. But if all you want to do is beat Michigan every year and go to a bowl game, I mean, Mel Tucker is a great guy because I don't see him losing to Michigan anytime soon. He's had those guys ready to fight the last 2 years, unfortunately, from a Wolverine perspective. So money well spent. But I will say that one of my biggest complaints in sports right now is the way that coaches are handled in college. So you have, for instance, Dan Mullen just got fired yesterday or 2 days ago. He's made a New Year's Six Bowl every single year he's been at Florida. He was the SEC East champion last year. They got rolled by Bama in the playoffs, or the SEC championship. But he just got fired this year. The thing is, you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs in sports, and you got to ride with that coach. So Michigan, they had their issue with Harbaugh. They restructured his contract. He's now essentially on a commission basis where he's paid by his performance. He could be one of the top 2 paid coaches depending on how his team performs. And I know Nebraska just restructured Scott Frost's contract that same way too. But I just think that being a college football coach, you got to ride with your coach at times. I mean, there's a lot of good coaches out there that get fired early. I mean, think about if Harbaugh got fired last year, Michigan wouldn't be 10-1
Michigan has
right now.
no reason to get rid of Harbaugh, though. The guy is
It's so hard to build a program
how many
in
10-win
college, though.
seasons he's had.
They don't.
It's
And the
so
thing
hard
is,
to-
it's hard to
build
be a
program
college
in
coach. And the thing is, it's the same reason Scott Frost just did the same similar contract at Nebraska, because that's their guy. The chips are on that guy, and if he can't win, who is going to win? But I look at the program Northwestern, for example. Northwestern went to the Big Ten championship last year, and they're ass this year. You're going to have your ups and downs in football, and the problem is when you get to the schools where all they care about is football, you have one bad year and they want you out because you suck. But you just got to ride out the roller coaster. That's why I think that, circling back, although the Mel Tucker 95 mil 10-year contract sounds a little extreme, he's going to roller coaster. He's going to have some good years and some bad years. But the reason why he earned that is because he turned that program around and he's beat Michigan. And he'll probably continue to beat Michigan at least a few more times during that 10-year span. So it sounds extreme, but I like to see that institutions are investing in coaches for the long term, because you can't build a program in 1 year. Honestly, I don't even think you can build it in 4.
I think it takes 5 years.
It takes
I think
time.
minimum 5.
I mean, Dabo was almost fired after his 4th year. You look at Dabo, how he started at Clemson. Let's look it up quick.
It's bad.
It wasn't good.
I know. I think people forget.
Good.
I think people forget about that.
Forget.
It took him time to get that success.
Well, I'm taking Penn State at Spartan Stadium on Saturday. I think Penn State's defense is underrated. I think their offense is spotty, but they do have a really good receiving core. And I think it gives Michigan State issues in a close one. 2-point game, 3-point game.
I'm taking Sparty. I didn't say my pick. I'm taking Sparty. Penn State had 30-some guys out for the flu last week. Sean Clifford was out. I think Sparty, they got a lot of guys. It's been a big season. They're not going to lose at home. Spartan Stadium is a tough place to play. I think Penn State is soft. And there's a lot of distraction with the James Franklin contract. I think it's interesting. They announced his contract today before the Michigan State game to help focus their team, or they should have done that a couple of weeks ago. You know, James Franklin changed his agents 2-3 weeks ago. Everyone thinking he's going to take the USC job. A lot of distractions going on, but I'm taking Sparty. I think Sparty's going to get it done at Spartan Stadium.
You think James Franklin? You think James Franklin was worried when he was playing Illinois at the Big House on a Thursday? Double cheeked up.
He's been playing with his butthole puckered every single game since he's been there. That guy, I don't like James Franklin. I would not like that contract if I was Penn State. But
I'm picking Michigan State. I think senior night at home, last regular season game for them, that especially after getting embarrassed, I think they have a little motivation there to go back to the drawing board. Excuse me. And
what time is the game, Vince?
I got it right here. It is 3:30 on ABC.
Oh yeah, Sparty's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good time slot. So I got Michigan State. Go green, baby. All right, you guys want to move on and finish here with Michigan, and then we can wrap it up with maybe college football playoff talk and call it a night.
Yeah.
One of you guys want to start us off here? My 2 Michigan
Kory.
fans.
All right. Biggest matchup at the Big House since 2003. Michigan hasn't played Ohio State for championship implications since then, which is crazy to think about. We've always played at Ohio State. No, I think you got a Michigan team who did some things last week against Maryland on offense that we literally haven't seen this whole season, which is pretty awesome to see. I think it was a little mix of look what we can do and here, try to game plan for this. I don't honestly think a lot of it had any intention other than to just screw with Ohio State. But no, I think that it's going to be a battle. I think Michigan's good at the things Michigan State wasn't good at, for example, our secondary. So there'll be some things that we'll see different. I'm going to say it's not as close as people think. I have some weird faith in Michigan this year. I'm going to say 38-27 Michigan.
Hey, Brett, your camera's off, BTW.
Yeah, I'm turning it back on. I just step out for a second.
Oh, okay. Didn't know if we lost you.
No, I'm back.
Did you hear Kory's pick?
I did. 38-27. You want me to go next, or do you want to go?
Do you guys want to bookend me? Do you want to sandwich me?
Yeah, we might as well because you're picking the Buckeyes. So,
I mean, I'm not picking them out of spite. I even though you guys would probably pick teams against Michigan State out of spite, although I commend Brett for being reasonable and picking Michigan State over Penn State. Michigan's a very good football team. I mean, they're really, really good. I mean, if they find a way to get in the end zone a few more times against Michigan State, I think they would have rolled Michigan State. Michigan State just found a way to stop them and keep them to field goals. Otherwise, Michigan could be 11-0 right now. I mean, they have a chance still to get to 11-1 and get to their first Big Ten Conference Championship game in school history. I think it helps that senior day and at the Big House. I just think this Ohio State team is rolling. I think Michigan's playing very well, but I think Ohio State's playing better than anyone in the country other than Georgia. So my pick is Ohio State. I think it's probably going to be a fairly good game. I don't think it's not going to be like the Michigan State one. I don't think Ohio State blows out Michigan this year. I think it's within a few scores, 2 scores, 1 score, maybe even 1 score game.
All right. Going to wrap it up here. I'm taking the Wolverines, and I can tell you exactly why. The Buckeyes, freshman quarterback CJ Stroud, he plays great. He plays great in the shoe. But on the road, he's given the Buckeyes a little bit of a problem. At Minnesota, they're on the ropes. I believe they're losing going into the second half up in Minneapolis. Fast forward at Rutgers, they had a nice little bump out game, crushed the Scarlet Knights, which everybody does. At Indiana, the same thing. But then they went to Lincoln, Nebraska, very close game. They won by 9 points. To a Nebraska team that plays every game very close. Even the Michigan game was very close. But I think, like Kory said, Vince said, they're playing in the Big House. It's the first time the game's really been on the line in the Big House, or the conference has been on the line in the Big House since 2003.
I say it's been a while since they both, because there was a stretch in the mid-2000s where Ohio State, after those sanctions, wasn't doing so hot, and then Michigan wasn't doing so hot. So was that the last time they were top 10 matchup playing for the conference title?
Well, they were in 2016 and 2018, but those were in Columbus. This is the first time in the Big House. All I can say is that the team in 2018 or maybe 2017, Michigan was led by John O'Korn, J-O-K, a.k.a. Joke, for a quarterback. I respect him as a person, sucked at QB. But Michigan had that game against J.T. Barrett and J.K. Dobbins. They were on a last possession to win the game, and J.O.K. threw an interception. If that Michigan team can make that game close in the Big House, you bet.
What season was that? What year was that?
I think it was 28. Might have been 2017, just before Shea
Patterson. I think it was 8. I thought it was 18.
Might have been 18. You can bet your ass that this Michigan team is going to keep it close. The Big House is going to be rocking. I'll be there. Kory's going to be there.
You guys are. Oh yeah, you guys both got tickets, don't you?
I probably won't even be able to talk after the game. I'm going to be screaming the entire game.
I won't even be able to see the game. I'll be so drunk by the time we go in.
Wear your Dr. Scholl's, because we're going to be standing the whole game. Michigan is going to pull this out. I don't even have a scoring prediction. I just know that every streak comes to an end. Every all the water finds its level, and it's Michigan.
When was the last time Michigan beat Ohio State?
2011. We're not going to hit the double digits. That 2011 year was.
Isn't that the only time they've beaten Ohio State since the 21st century, since 2000?
No, they beat them in the early 2000s, but it was in between the Tressel and the Urban years when Luke Fickell, current Cincinnati coach, was leading the Buckeyes. I think it was like a 7-6 season or something, and now he's got Cincinnati undefeated. But Michigan, Brady Hoke, that 2011 team that Kory shouted out earlier, 11 wins, won the Sugar Bowl over Vitek. They beat the Buckeyes. That was the last team. I don't think that the Buckeye streak hits double digits. I think that Michigan wins this weekend. And if they don't, this might be my last podcast.
Did you know that the Buckeyes, I believe, if they were to win this, it would tie or break the tie for the longest win streak in the series history?
It would tie at 9.
9 was 1901.
1901 to like 1911 or 10.
9. It was
9.
9.
But last year they didn't play, and they would have ran us out of the gym last year. So it's
they
didn't play. But
like, yes, good thing we didn't play.
Michigan did move up to 5 in the college football playoffs. State
so yeah, we want to end on that. Talk about that to finish it up here.
Just a real quick touch. Clearly, Georgia's number 1. They will be number 1. They're going to win it all. I feel like this year's Georgia team reminds me of Alabama teams in the past. Like, you just don't want to be the 4 seed that has to play them because you just know it's going to be absolutely terrible. I think Ohio State, very good, but they have played some games really close this year that they have no reason to play close. And I think playing against a team like Michigan this week, I think Jim Harbaugh knows how to control the ball well enough and control a whole football game that we'll be all right if we can get a lead up on them early too. That'll help. Alabama, number 3. I think they deserve to be number 3. They're Alabama. You keep them in until they either lose. Then we're going to agree to disagree on that. I think you keep them in until they prove that they're not good. They have 1 loss to Ole Miss, who's 9. So
no, that was Texas
A&M.
A&M.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
At Texas A&M.
Who's 15. So, and then Cincinnati, strength of schedule wise, pretty average. They did beat Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's
great. I don't think Notre Dame's great. So there's that.
Yeah, I think I've talked to both of you guys about this. You guys probably both know my opinion. I absolutely hate the postseason in major Division I college football. Anyone who knows me and has talked football with me knows I hate it. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. Me someone that likes it. I think it's ridiculous that
bring back the BCS.
No,
it was better than what we got now.
I don't understand why. We created in the night. I like I told you guys earlier in the 1970s, the NCAA split into technically 4 divisions if you count the FCS and football, and the FCS, Division II and Division III, all have had playoffs since the 1970s. The NAIA, which was created for small colleges in the United States since the 1940s, has had, or 50s, whatever, has had playoffs. High school in every state has playoffs. The NFL has a 12-team playoff, 14-team playoff, I always forget, has playoffs.
12 with buys.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that the second highest level of football is the only other level of football for over 100 years has never had a legit way to determine a national champion. Don't tell me 2 or 4 teams determines a national champion. It does not, because even the smallest league, the NFL, who has 32 teams, still puts over a third of their teams in a playoff. Okay. Division II and Division III have 28 and 32, right? And then you have Division I, 4 with 130 teams, 4. Now I get the argument that the dominant teams dominate. I get that. But I think with the NIL deals, and I think if you were to create a better playoff system, that it would distribute the talent, because if kids believe that if they are a high recruit, that they could be seen on a national level at one of their hometown schools or home state schools, because if they win there, they still get to go to the playoffs. They still get a national conversation for the national tournament. Okay. Just like basketball, You get 5 and 4-star recruits that go to small schools in basketball all the time because every team has a chance to go to the tournament. Now, I get that that's a much bigger tournament, obviously. More teams make it. But imagine how much the talent would spread out if more teams had an opportunity to go to a playoff. It would spread out. It wouldn't happen right away, but it would eventually. And I think the NIL deals will help because now kids can make money wherever they go. It doesn't matter. You don't have to, be seen by the NFL at a big time school anymore. You can just make your money. I don't know. I can't stand it. I hate it. I think it needs to be at least 12 teams. I think 12 teams is the minimum. I personally tell people all the time, I would love to see all 10 conference champions get in and then do 6 at-large teams, go 16. Do away with one of the non-conference regular season games. The SEC plays an FCS school every year. Get rid of that. Come on. Play 11 games. Division II plays 11 games. Division III plays 10 games. FCS plays 11 games. Cut your schedule down by 1 game. Do a 16-team playoff. I don't know. That's my argument. I hate the college football playoffs. I love the games, but I hate the system. I hate the format. Sorry. And off my soapbox. Still in
Take it, Kory.
I already said my piece.
Oh. So
I think it's stupid, but at the same time, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it.
It sounds like they're going to be changing it, though.
I agree with Vince. I think 2025 is when the contract expires, which is still too far away in my mind. I'm going to be halfway to 40 by the time that happens.
Oh, dude, don't make me think about that.
But
I am 40.
Well, you look like you're 20, so that's all that matters.
Good.
With that mustache, that porn
But
stash.
the mustache, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more, Vince. The way the playoff is set up is terrible. 2 teams sucked. 4 teams is even worse.
Yeah,
the
because
problem
there's
is
so many arguments with 4 teams.
so many arguments. Just open the door for arguments. One of the bigger problems is you're gonna have 4 teams. Okay, that's fine. Don't put the rankings out in week 9 or week 8 whenever they start the playoff rankings, because all that does is causes arguments. Imagine if NCAA basketball put out their official bracketology midway through February. Like, that would be insane. It's just stupid. And it's an attention grab. I watched the Michigan State Kansas game.
It's all about money.
And intermission.
It's all about money.
It's all about football. Michigan State Kansas basketball. And that intermission between that and Kentucky Duke, we're talking about a stupid first playoff team ranking when 2 of the teams that were in that ranking are out. Half those teams are out. How stupid is that? Complete waste of my time. I just tuned in because I love college football, but it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know.
You actually watch. I just wait till they post it on Twitter.
Somebody get this man a tissue.
I'm going to need a box. It is freaking insane. I hate it. I have nothing good to say about it. The people, Greg Sankey, SEC, I know he's probably one of the main ones leading it.
Isn't the Iowa AD one of the head guys too?
Yeah, he's got a corn cob up his ass. I don't know. It's stupid. Absolutely stupid. It's like you said, Vince, every level of football has a large playoff where multiple teams make it. And the thing is, the struggle in FBS is you lose one game and guys just quit because
who wants to go play at the Little Caesars
how many people are going to sit out a bowl game this year?
Yeah,
they're
going to sit out bowl games. I mean, yeah, you're playing in the Red Box Bowl and Levi
Cheez-It Bowl
in San Francisco in front of 15,000 fans.
The Lions
4 of your best players are sitting out because they're going to the NFL. So
I've never understood the bowl game system. The only reason that do you guys realize too that of the other there's 4 technically 4 divisions in the NCAA, right? FBS, FCS, D2 and D3. This is the only level, their highest level, where they don't sanction a playoff. The NCAA runs and sanctions the other 3 playoffs. This level, they don't. I don't understand why. I've never looked into the minutia, like the details. The only thing I can think of that seems to be common sense and makes sense on paper is money. Exactly. It's money. It's because this bowl system has been in place for almost 100 years. Some of like the Rose Bowl has already, over 100 years. The Rose Bowl Michigan State played in the 100th Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl has been 109 seasons. So
make the Rose Bowl a semifinal
Exactly.
every single
I agree.
playoff.
Yes.
And every other, like the
Or
semifinals are a
rotate 'em.
neutral
Just
site,
rotate
and then
'em.
everything
Rotate
else is a
those
home.
5 bowls.
I just don't understand.
Fiesta, Orange, Rose, rotate them around as 2 semifinals.
good idea, too.
A bowl game.
I don't understand what's written in fine print somewhere, what contract is signed where, that the NCAA is not allowed to sanction a postseason tournament for this level. The only thing I can think of is something contractual, something with money, and with the bowl games, a combination of those things. It's so stupid. It's the only sport and the only level in the NCAA, only sport and only division where the NCAA does not hand a trophy with their name on it to the champion.
The thing is,
only one.
The thing is, you're probably gonna, if it's about money, like you said, Vince, you go to a 16-team playoff. So Iowa is ranked 16 right now. Texas A&M is ranked 15. Those 2 teams are probably going to square off in the Mayo Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida, in front of 25,000 fans. And if
Duke's
that was
Mayo Bowl.
Now imagine if the
if
Mayo
you wanted-
Bowl was the first round of a 32-team tournament.
that place
Still
would be
have your bowl games.
sold out. It would be completely sold out. So
I don't know
whoever
why they
is
don't do
saying
a
it's about
32-team tournament. Like,
whoever
how
is
much
running
fun? How much fun?
whoever has ever looked into the numbers needs to just get canned because they have no idea what they're talking about. Anything that's worth a damn to win a championship.
Look at all the other playoff games, though. Like in all the other divisions and even high school, the stadiums are packed because your team's done. Like you may never see them again. Well, at least for the year. They're not going to
Grand Valley Ferris will be sold out this weekend up in Big Rapids. Sold out.
Second round playoff game.
Even the
Standing
Division
room
two-
only.
Even the D2,
If that was a bowl game, no chance.
yeah, and that's D2, and even the D2 national championship game, which they changed the contract, but for a while it was being played in Texas. I think it still is Texas. Even
Used
for
to be
that,
Alabama.
yeah, but even for that, they still get like I think 8,000 to 9,000 people all the way down there. Like even when Ferris State went, like people for Division II football because it's exciting, it's fun, it's for
it's a national championship.
You're playing for a championship.
The playoffs makes
People
it
wanna
fun.
be a part
Anytime
of
you
it.
have a chance to advance, people want to be there and be a part of it. And no one wants to go to an Outback Bowl just for claps.
To hang a banner that says Outback Bowl
Well,
champions.
Corey goes to the bowls.
I go to the Outback Bowl free steak.
I've never been to a bowl game before. I went to Michigan State's Big Ten championship game against Iowa, but I've never been to a bowl game.
My last bowl game I went to was the Alamo Bowl in 2006.
Wow.
Michigan versus Nebraska, completely scarred. I was at an intersection walking into the stadium. This drunk Nebraska fan looked at my 14-year-old self and goes, "Hey, Wolverine, how do you make a Michigan cookie?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "You put it in a bowl and you beat it for 3 hours. Go Big Red!" And Michigan got rolled.
How many teeth was that guy missing? How many teeth was he missing?
I don't think he had a tooth.
Sure it wasn't one hanging from the middle.
Just a single. But yeah, it needs to change. It's going to change over the course of the years. It's just a shame it takes so long.
Well, all right,
it's fun nonetheless. It keeps us interested.
Yeah,
we're talking about it, so it's
to talk about and argue. But hopefully, it gets changed sometime soon. Well, all right, guys. With that, we have been talking for a little over an hour. Kory, this podcast episode for episode 1 is going to be over an hour and like 40 minutes. So I don't know. We'll have to talk if we want to split up into 2 parts or if we just want people to accept over almost 2 hour long first episode. All right. With that, we're going to wrap things up here. Brett Jansen, Fart Johnson, thanks for joining us. Our guest picker for the MHSAA state playoffs. We'll announce in the next episode which one of us won. Obviously, if you pay attention to the games and follow along, see who made the best picks. Go green.
Go blue.
Thanks for having me. RIP MSU.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening. And,
coming. Tuck dead.
Great Lakes State football, or as Kory and I like to joke, GLSF ball. We'll be back with another episode next week. Have a great night.
Adios.